that was the scene at 6:30 this morning. Lake Toho in Kissimmee, Florida, getting ready for the biggest day of their lives. 51 anglers, the best in the world, blasting off in the early morning light. They've got one aspiration, to make that one cast that could change their lives, the one cast that could make their career, the one cast that could win them $500,000. They're in pursuit of the World Championship of Bass Fishing, the Citgo Bassmaster Classic.
Two men have clearly separated themselves from the rest of the pack in professional bass fishing. One, a two-time and defending champion of bass fishing's career-defining tournament.
If you're going to be successful in this sport, you have to truly love it. You have to live it, breathe it. You have to be obsessed with it. I haven't lost that obsession, and I don't think I will anytime soon.
The other, a three-time runner-up. Just 6 ounces away from being the Classic's best in Pittsburgh last year.
I've been first place loser 3 years in a row. Not third, not fourth, is second. How many seconds can one guy get consecutively? I didn't think it was possible. First place is everything, you know?
Today, reigning Citgo Bassmaster Classic champion Kevin Vandam and reigning Angler of the Year Aaron Martens renew the battle for bass fishing supremacy, neither giving way to the other.
I feel his pain because 3 times in a row it's been right there, but I love to win, no doubt.
He's a fierce competitor. He's not going to let me have it. Know that. He's 1-2. It's too many. It's too quick.
Welcome, everybody, to Day 2 fishing on Kissimmee, Florida's beautiful Lake Toho. It's the 2006 Citgo Bassmaster Classic, the measure of bass fishing's best.
Today on ESPN College Game Day, we're deep in the heart of Texas for a potential Big 12 championship preview.
Master Classic. That's the action from our venue, Lake Toho in the Kissimmee chain, Kissimmee, Florida. Man, this is elimination day. You've got to make it into the top 25 today. A big, big day for the sport of bass fishing. Welcome to our live coverage. Going to take you all the way up actually to 11:30 today. We're covering the lakes like never before. Welcome to Central Florida. Is this the place to be in the month of February? Cue the palm trees, cue the palmettos. We've got it all for you right here today. If you're a fishing fan, this is the #1 day of the year. Tommy Sanders here. So happy to be with the former Classic champ, former Angler of the Year, the all-time leading money winner, Denny Brower's here to take us through it all today.
It's an honor to be working with you again, Tommy. This should be fun.
We saw Vandam, we saw Martens. That was the marquee matchup coming into this event here. Yesterday, day 1 of the Classic, some new stars emerged. They made the story today. They're going to make our big story today. 2 anglers from different corners of these United States, Preston Clark and Luke Clawson, catching 29-plus stringers of fish. What's going to happen? Are they going to run away from this field? Or are they going to fall back to everyone else?
They're both awesome anglers. If they catch him again today, the way they caught him yesterday, they are going to separate themselves from the field. If either one of them gets a 10 or 12-pound lead going into the last day, they're going to pull away. If they falter, it opens up the whole field. All the guys from 15 pounds to 22 pounds, it'll put them in the hunt, and it'll be wide open tomorrow.
Okay, one more note about Vandam and Martens. Instead of battling for the lead, that slugfest at the top, these 2 guys are fighting for their lives. They're trying to make it into that top 25. You've got to be in the top 25 if you want to fish on the final day.
Yeah, there's going to be some guys going home after today, and, you know, those are sad stories, but ultimately when they're catching them this good, you've got to catch them that good.
All right. Everyone comes to the Classic hoping, praying for big, big fish. Well, day 1 of the 2006 Classic did not disappoint.
Yeah! Thank you, Lord. Oh, God.
When I reached down to pick her up, is when I got nervous. I saw how big she was, and I was like, oh, my goodness.
Woo! That's the right kind. Some of it's full of that. Big ones, too. Yes, yes, yes! Woo! We gotta go! Only at the Bassmasters Classic. Oh, that's a nice fish.
I knew I had the opportunity to catch some big fish here.
Could it get any closer than in your face than that?
Well, that was the record they were all chasing. The largest bass ever caught in Classic competition. Ricky Green, Arkadelphia, Arkansas. 8 pounds, 9 ounces on Lake Guntersville, all the way back in 1976, 30 years ago. And it was totally shattered. Preston Clark was the man who did it. Preston Clark from Palatka, Florida, one of 2 Florida anglers in this competition, knows this lake. Boy, does he know it in a big way. Take a look at this giant. We've seen alligators out there on Lake Toho. Smaller than that right there. Preston Clark shatters the record, 11 pounds and 10 ounces. As a matter of fact, 3 anglers, including Mark Tucker and Rick Clunn, also broke the old Ricky Green record. Some amazing, amazing stuff out there. Look at all those fish that were caught yesterday. Preston Clark again with the 11-10. Rick Clunn 10-10. Mark Tucker, he shatters the record as well. And just bubbling under it right there, Edwin Evers with the 850. Actually, he busts the record as well. Man, oh man, Denny, big fish. This is what you hope for. This is the kind of classic we were all waiting for.
Well, this is why you come to Florida this time of the year. You have the opportunity to catch those kind of fish. Lots of them live here, and they caught them. It was awesome.
All right, a new leaderboard coming up right now. The fishing is going on right now out there on the lake. Luke Clawson, the man from the Spokane Valley in Washington, was the leader after day 1, but now Preston Clark got 3 fish in the boat today. Take a look at that, 36 pounds. Luke Clawson gonna have to play a little bit of catch up right now.
It's going to be a wide open hunt, Tommy. Those guys are catching them, and they're catching them early.
All right, Rick Clunn, you can see right there. In 8th place so far, he hasn't got a fish yet today. And look at the anglers who are below that cut line, below the 25th position. And Mike Iaconelli is one of those anglers right there. The 2003 Citgo Classic champion. Well, I tell you what, Mike Iaconelli had a day for himself yesterday. Mike Iaconelli had some fish in the boat, ran into a good bit of trouble out there. I tell you what, it's just unbelievable what happened to him.
Well, he totally lost it. You can't do that. You got to keep your composure. You're going to ruin your whole day. You're going to ruin your whole tournament. Obviously, he took himself right out of it, and that's sad, but unfortunately, if you can't control emotions, you're not going to be successful.
Take a look at what happened to Mike Iaconelli out there yesterday. As we say, he had some fish in the boat, and then he looks in the live well and discovers these fish are not doing well at all.
Yeah, he forgot to turn his aerator on, Tommy. He just made a mistake, and you got to own up to that mistake. He's going to try to blame everything but himself, and he's going to throw a fit here. And I hate it. I hate it for the sport. It makes everybody look bad.
He's got rejuvenation powder right there, trying to do everything he can to save his fish. You can't fault him for not trying to save those fish.
No, he's trying to save those fish, but those things happen, and you got to work your way through them, and he just went nuts. And I hate it. I hate it for our sport. It's a horrible deal.
Well, he had to turn the fish back. That was bad enough, and then this happens.
Yeah, he's a total jerk when he does stuff like that. That is not good for our sport. We don't need to see that.
Mike Iaconelli.
Kids don't need to see that.
Chuck, it's Ike.
Disqualified for unsportsmanlike conduct. Excuse me. Mike Iaconelli, his first day's catch was disqualified. Trip Weldon is the tournament director here at the Citgo Bassmaster Classic. Explain unsportsmanlike conduct and how it applied in this case, Trip.
Oh, well, good morning, Tommy and Denny. Yes, he violated rule number 5. The rules they're fishing under this week's Sportsmanship Rule, and I'll read it to you. Competitors in BASS tournaments are expected to follow high standards of sportsmanship, courtesy, safety, and conservation. Any infraction of these fundamental sporting principles may be deemed cause for disqualification. You know, Mike's an incredible angler. We totally respect him, what he does, the rapport with his fans, kids. He does a phenomenal job, but yesterday he crossed the line with sportsmanship. And Bass, as an organization, will not tolerate such actions.
Trip, all other sports, football, if you get disqualified in the first half, you do not get to come back in the second half. Why does he get a fish the rest of this tournament?
We disqualified him for his catch yesterday, Denny. You know, it's a pretty simple rule of thumb as far as our infractions go. You lose catch for the day, the entire tournament, or you could be banned from bass for a period of time, even up to lifetime. His actions yesterday, he crossed the line yesterday, and I met with the tournament managers, our group of guys that run tournaments all over the country, and we felt like the best decision was to disqualify him from yesterday.
What did he say, Trip, when you disqualified him? What action is in front of him?
Our conversations were very civil. He said, I understand your decision. He still maintains that he doesn't think he crossed the line.
Okay.
And, you know, our opinion, and we think he did, and we penalized him appropriately.
All right. Thank you so much, Trip, and we appreciate everyone respects your decisions out here on tour, and I'm sure Mike will abide by that. He's going to have to, as a matter of fact. Thank you again,
Well,
sir.
Thank you, but it was an incredible day. What record after record broken, just phenomenal day.
Mike Iaconelli is one of the most flamboyant figures, certainly in the sport of bass fishing. This is going to add to his legend. Take a look at Mike Iaconelli, 33 years old. Of course, he won the Classic back in 2003 down down in New Orleans on the Louisiana Delta. A very dramatic finish there. All right, Mike Iaconelli is fishing again today. As Tripp mentioned, that was a one-day suspension of his weight, a disqualification of his weight. Our own Robbie Floyd, one of the 3 reporters who were covering the water out on Toho and Kissimmee like never before. And Robbie Floyd, I know you've spent some time with Mike this morning. I'm sure you took his temperature. Robbie, how is he running today? What is his emotional outlook as he starts his fishing on day number 2?
You know, Mike's usually pretty peppy. I mean, he's not afraid to talk to you or anything else, and we have a good relationship. But, you know, I mean, it's one of those quiet Mikes you don't see very often. You could tell he was angered. He was disappointed with what happened yesterday, but his goal was just trying to push on and move to today. He's actually moved down to Kissimmee. We're trying to head that direction now. We went, you know, you go through one lake. I've already talked to a couple anglers that I was in there with, Kevin Vandam and Kevin Worth, and I said that, you know, Worth was using the lures that Kevin gave him the day before. When I was talking to Worth also, he said that he had 1 fish caught and 1 already got off, and that was up in the Toho end of things. So he's trying to work his way south, and I'm halfway in between here in Kissimmee right now and working my way south, but I'll try and get an update on night because he said it was one of those days when he would have to swing for the fences. He needed about 25 or 30 pounds if he has any chance of making the top 25.
Robbie, you think there's any chance he's just going to kind of go through the motions today? I mean, I don't see physically how it's possible for him to catch the leaders at this point. What do you think he's going to spend this day doing? You say swinging for the fences. What's that going to be?
You know what? He didn't even give me specifics, but I mean, when Dean Rojas' record, that's what he's going for. I mean, it can happen here, and you can't count him out. I mean, he's a very technical fisher, but he also intentionally went down to Kissimmee in that area, and he's fished a couple places along the way. But obviously, the guys think that that's where the big fish are, because that's where everybody's hitting. But some of the anglers are wanting the sun to come out. They're getting their chance. You can see the sun's on my face, and I've got the sunglasses out. It looks like a lot better conditions, and the sun will be traveling from my left to my right as I look at it, and I don't see many clouds in the sky, guys. All right, Mark May, what do you have for us?
Well, I've got the weather for you guys. I spoke with Greg Quinn, our meteorologist from Thorogood this morning, and he told me today should be a little bit warmer than yesterday, about 80 degrees, a little bit cloudier, but we'll have some sunshine peek through. Right now, the sun is peeking through. The winds this morning, 10 to 15 miles an hour from the south to the southeast. Now, this afternoon, the winds will pick up between 10 and 20 miles per hour sustained. And I want to know from Denny, if the wind does pick up from the southeast and it's sustained around 20 miles an hour, how will that affect the anglers today?
Well, if it picks up like that, it's going to dirty up some areas that were clear yesterday, and once that water dirties up, it's hard to catch these fish down in Florida. So it could be huge. It could be very, very huge.
All right, take a look. That's the Saturday weather. There's your forecast right there. 66 degrees wind, 5 to 15 miles an hour. That's a pretty good swing, a pretty good variance in the wind right there, and 20% chance of rain. So rain's probably not going to be that big a factor out there today. Well, I tell you what, Denny, that wind's going to swing around again during the day. It's going to swing around even more tomorrow. It's going to be blowing straight out of the north. Things will change as far as that fishing goes, right?
Things will change, Tommy, but these lakes are so good. There's so many fish. There's so many places for them to get in behind the vegetation. These guys are going to catch them. They may not catch them quite as good as yesterday, but they will catch them.
All right, let's take a look at our playing field for today. It is an extraordinary one. This playing field, probably about 100 square miles. Lake Toho and the other lakes on the Kissimmee chain here, including Hackney, Lake Cypress, and Lake Kissimmee. That's going to play big in the fishing out there today, Denny.
It will. All the lakes are great, Tommy, but a couple of these lakes seem to be playing a bigger part. Toho and Kissimmee, and a lot of them 20-pound stringers came from the northeast shore of Kissimmee Lake yesterday, and I expect to see that again today. Just a tremendous fishery.
We learned about locking. They're going to have to lock through. We'll talk about more of that coming up today. Lake Cypress hasn't been a big factor today. Neither has Lake Hackney. Two different shorelines, Toho to Kissimmee. The Kissimmee shoreline very broken up. Lots of little pockets, places for fish to hide, places for vegetation. Toho's kind of like a big bowl.
It really is. It's been renovated. A lot of big humps of dirt out there where they've scraped the bottom. That creates new vegetation. Great places for the fish to spawn.
All right.
They're really taking care of these lakes.
Boy, you talk about taking care of the big fish. They have taken care of us here, these lakes on the Kissimmee chain. The winning weight at Pittsburgh, 12 pounds and 15 ounces. The first day's weight from yesterday eclipsed that almost 3 times as much, 29 pounds and 6 ounces. You got two events that couldn't be more opposite. A small fish battle of survival, plus this big fish blowout here at Toho. All right, the fishing yesterday, as we say, was phenomenal. Preston Clark, Palatka, Florida, had the big day as far as the sight fishing went. We'll explain more about sight fishing a little bit later. 41-year-old man who sold insurance for 16 years. You talk about living the dream. Here's his action from this morning. He went back on it, the first angler to catch a fish this morning.
Preston's only fishing about 5 minutes from takeoff, so he's really going to be able to utilize his time better than what a lot of these other anglers are. And that boat dock he's fishing right there, I heard was absolutely loaded with fish.
All right, Preston Clark, we know he was sight fishing a good bit yesterday. We're going to take a quick break coming up here, but let's take a look at the scoreboard. Lots of action out there so far today. Day 2 of the fishing, you got to be among the top 25, and Preston Clark, the man who has taken over the lead, 1.5 pounds ahead of Luke, Clawson, Worth, Evers, Sheffield, all in there. That scoreboard is going to keep swapping around. We'll follow it. Don't go away.
ESPN's live coverage of the Citgo 2006 Bassmaster Classic is brought to you by Citgo and in part by Mercury Marine and Purolator.
All right, that's the prize right there, the trophy for being the world champion. Bass fisherman, the winner of the 2006 Citgo Bassmaster Classic, back here with our live coverage, taking you all the way up to 11 o'clock. More Bass Center coming up for you at 11 o'clock, taking you all the way to 11:30. The weigh-in coming up a little bit later. Today at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Denny Brower with us today to take us through this incredible day. $500,000. It used to be, they'd say, hey, this is about a lot more than money. That call is a little tougher to make in this day and age.
This is about money, $500,000. They're gonna start feeling it about the end of the day. You know, going into tomorrow, you start thinking about the money rather than fishing. You're not going to fish good. Money can become a factor.
I hope someone doesn't have a heart attack out there today. $500,000, $500,000 to the winner, but you got to play by the rules, and some of the anglers were kind enough to share those rules for you, brought to you by Toyota.
Hi, I'm Mike Iaconelli.
Hi, I'm Chad Morgan-Taylor.
Hi, I'm Ish Monroe, and these are the rules of the game. The world's best anglers compete
in the 2006 Citgo Bassmaster Classic. 3 days of competition.
3 days of cracking the whip on Lake Kissimmee,
Lake Toho,
Lake Hackney,
Lake Cypress.
It's a catch and release tournament.
You're allowed to keep 5 bass a day.
Day 2 is elimination day.
The top 25 qualify to fish the third and final round.
The angler with the heaviest weight
will be your 2006 Citgo Bassmasters Classic World Champion.
All right, so we got some news from out on the lake right now, covering that fishing very hard. Aaron Martens, who was one of our big stories, struggled a little bit on day 1 down in 21st place. He's making a major move right now. Then he jumped all the way up into 13th. This is early to be making a big hop like that over 7 guys.
I think a lot of people expected Aaron's to have one of those 30-pound bags yesterday. The sun wasn't out. I know he had found some big fish in practice, sight fishing. He may be able to see him a little bit better today. Ultimately, this guy can do whatever it takes to adjust. Apparently, he's adjusted, and he's probably going to get a little closer to them leaders.
You feel a kinship with this guy. You had the monkey on your back, not ever winning the Classic for the longest time. You finally got it done in 1998. He's got that same monkey. 3 second-place finishes for Aaron Martens so far.
Yeah, and that starts to work on you. You get tired of hearing that same old question from the media. Is this the year you're finally going to win the Classic? And he's wanting to win it bad. He's got the ability to win it. And if he keeps moving up the leaderboard like this, he could be a factor come tomorrow, folks.
All right, Aaron Martens, he struggled some on day 1, definitely, but so many anglers had a big day on day 1 of the Citgo Bassmaster Classic. Mark Menendez coming back from viral meningitis. There's Mike Iaconelli.
See these eyes? I'm hungry.
Boy, when you see fish, it takes 2 hands to pull out of the water. You know you're in for a big day, right?
Oh, and Rick's very emotional with this fish. This is unbelievable.
The legend, Rick Clunn.
When you see Rick get excited like that, that's a big fish.
You'll never see more emotion out of a man like that. And Mark Menendez, his comeback continues.
All day long.
Great guy, great fish.
Like he said at the weigh-in, baby, I'm all the way back. And there he is, Aaron Martens from yesterday, and apparently he's continuing that trend today.
Now, you got to like his hat.
And Mike Iaconelli, boy, that was the hard luck story of the day. Of course, his actions after that got him disqualified. The full catch, 11+ pounds from day 1, disqualified for Mike Iaconelli. That's the kind of stuff, they're dragging it out of all kinds of vegetation, a huge part of the playing field here.
Yeah, you know, there's so many different types of vegetation. We've seen them fish in several of those different types. A little bit ago, they were pulling them out of lily pads. That's tough cover. But most of these anglers are fishing the sparse cover because that's where the fish are spawning.
Yes. Oh, I gotta go.
Dean Rojas, the man who set all the records for the Bassmaster single-day catch, 4-day catch here on Lake Toho 5 years ago back in 2001. And Dean, obviously very happy to have avoided some embarrassment yesterday. He got himself on the board in a good way.
Yeah, timing's everything. That last second fish put him back in the hunt.
That is, oh my God.
Take a look at that scoreboard. Man, it is changing around. Preston Clark has retaken that lead from Luke Clawson, our day one leader. Kevin Worth, the man from Kentucky, we cannot leave him out of the mix as well. Edwin Evers of Oklahoma. And Ron Shuffield has made a big move so far today, jumping all the way from 10th place up to 5th.
Yeah, but you notice a lot of these guys are having a slow start. They haven't caught any, or they've just caught one. And you look up there at the top, the leaders have caught 3, 2, 2. I mean, that's what's going to separate them from the rest of the field. These guys below are going to have to get started. They're going to have to get started this morning in order to call up to a great big bag.
Larry Nixon, Ish Monroe have dropped out of the top 10. And as we mentioned, Aaron Martens jumping all the way from 21st place up to 13th.
Aaron's caught him. Randy Howell's caught him. Several of these guys down below are starting to make a move. Stacy King had a terrible day yesterday. Has already put 4 fish in the boat.
All right, Scott Rook, who had a good day the first day, blanking so far today. Scott Rook, the angler from Arkansas, also has a second place finish. 32nd place for KVD, our defending champ. Does that surprise you, Denny Brown?
It really does. Kevin's such a great angler. He may be putting too much pressure on himself. I know he wanted to win this event for the sport because it would have brought so much recognition for him to win 4 tournaments in a row. So he may be taking himself out of it a little bit, but don't be surprised if he makes a big comeback.
Well, there's the guys who are going to have to engineer some kind of huge comeback today, including David Walker. He was one of the favorites. Your son, Chad Brower's in there as well, Denny.
Yeah, I had a talk with Chad last night, but apparently it didn't do a lot of good. He's got a lot of catching up to do. He had kind of a slow day yesterday, but a lake like this, it can happen in a hurry.
All right, Tim Horton, of course, one of the favorites also leading into this competition. Tim Horton definitely struggling in this 2006 Citgo Bassmaster Classic. Weather was a factor yesterday. We got Jerry McInnes as part of our coverage here, providing some great analysis as well. Jerry's coming with us to talk about the weather and talk about all these 20-pound-plus stringers. Jerry, it was an exciting time. Jerry's in the Expo Center for the Citgo Classic Outdoors Expo.
Guys, I know that yesterday's news is kind of old news, but I've got some very, very interesting information for you. I want to take a look at all 7 of those 20-pound plus stringers that we brought in yesterday. And as you look at them, you're going to see something very similar as we go all the way down the list. And we will start up in Lake Toho. We're going to look at Preston Clark with a 29-pound stringer, Rick Clun 20. Look where they're at now. Those were where those 2 big fish came from. We move all the way south down into Kissimmee. Davey Hyde, 20 pounds. Jeff Crete, 20 pounds. Edwin Evers. What's similar about every one of these spots here? Luke Clawson, our leader yesterday, 29 pounds, and Kevin Worth. Every one of these bags came off of the east bank, and that wind was really coming out of the east yesterday. Actually, it kind of comes over that east bank. The bank is very protected. It hits about the middle of the lake and then starts churning towards the west bank. And I'm telling you, in Florida, when the water gets churned up and really nasty looking, it's almost impossible to catch any fish. And Denny, I'll get you to back me up here. It's not actually digging the bottom up, the water churning. And again, that east bank was so protected. That's where all those big fish came from. But it doesn't churn up the bottom, it actually churns up the grass, doesn't it?
Yeah, what happens, Jerry, is the grass in this lake gets a lot of sediment on it, and when it gets that sediment and the wind starts blowing, it loosens it. And when it loosens it, it suspends in the water. And in Florida, it's almost impossible to catch fish once the water dirties up. So these guys that are catching them in clear water, if that water dirties up, Jerry, it's over.
Well, and guys, you gotta realize, again, we've already been told that wind is going to change from the east and start coming from the south. Boy, it will really change things up. So this morning's catch, I think anyway, this morning's catch is very important.
It's very important. Maybe they'll change. Your area muddies up. Maybe you got something else. It'll be interesting to see the guys that have something that they're saving for the last day.
These Florida fish, Denny, these Florida fish really crave that cleanest, clearest water they can possibly find. You cannot catch them in the dirty water.
Yeah, and all the smart anglers, you notice that's where they're fishing. They're fishing in the clear water.
All right, 2 Florida anglers in this competition. They know that fact better than anyone else probably. And the man in the lead right now is Preston Clark. Preston Clark of Palatka, Florida, caught that big 11-pound, 10-ounce bass yesterday. He has taken the lead today. 7 pounds of fish in the boat for this man right here in only his second Classic appearance. Finished 15th place last year on the Three Rivers in Pittsburgh. Sold insurance for 16 years, and boy, oh boy, is he living the dream right now. 2 fish caught today for Preston Clark. Let's take a look at the action out on Lake Toho.
Great hook set. This guy is really fishing good. That's good quality fish to start the day with, Tommy.
Oh, absolutely.
Fishing around them boat docks, just a flat bank, a spawning area with scattered vegetation, a few boat docks. These are the type of areas those fish like to pull up on and spawn, and he's got a little local advantage there. He knows that.
Good fish. All right, Preston Clark having another great day, obviously, as we begin the fishing on day 2 of this Classic coverage. Mark May has been out. I know you've been watching Preston Clark a lot. What have you seen? What have you heard from him today, Mark?
Well, Tommy, he's having an exceptional day, and obviously with the 7 pounds plus of fish he's caught today, he is the leader unofficially at this point. He and Luke Clawson right now are basically running away with this tournament, although it's early yet. We're not calling the dogs in yet. But Preston Clark has a little added incentive to fish well in this tournament. The reason why? His wife, Katrina, they just found out that she's pregnant with twins, possibly triplets. And now, instead of going to that man-to-man defense with their one daughter, Samantha, they're going to be playing the zone defense. They're going to go to possibly 3 or 4 children. So the added incentive is he needs to win this tournament. $500,000. That first place check will go a long way in diapers and feedings for these young children that are about the way. But as you can see, Preston Clark is having a huge day. He's out here fishing today. Look for him to be #1 at the end of the day. All right, Tommy.
All right, thank you so much. That's great work there from Mark May out there on the water. Preston Clark, it's all about him so far today. Preston Clark, the man from just up the road in Palatka, Florida, on his fishing, his extraordinary day on day 1 of this Classic.
10 foot away, I see the big fish. Then she was there the whole time, and I didn't know it. And then 2 pitches later, I hooked her, and I only thought she was 7 or 8 pounds. I got her to the boat, and when I reached down to pick her up, that's when I got nervous. I saw how big she was, and I was like, oh my goodness. And I got her in the boat, and I started shaking. I got her in the live well, and I had to sit down for 10 minutes. I couldn't get up.
This Bass Center in-game update is brought to you by Citgo.
Welcome back to the north end of the playing field, Lake Toho, Kissimmee, Florida, for this Bass Center in-game update. Hello again, everyone. I'm John Kernan, along with my fishing partner and professional angler, Byron Velvick. Unfortunately, didn't qualify for the Classic this year.
And it's killing me. This place is full of giants, and I'm not out fishing for them.
Well, I tell you what, the weather's starting to clear. We had overcast skies this morning. The wind has picked up. We'll talk a little bit more about that just a little bit later on. I want to get you out on the water, update you on what has been going on this morning. Preston Clark from nearby Palatka, Florida, trying to break the Classic curse. No angler has won the Classic when it's been hosted in their home state, but Byron, he's doing a great job out there. He was in second place going into today.
And look at him catching the fish here. Right off the bat, you notice it's flowing out here for us, but he looks like he's in a place that doesn't have nearly the wind. Of course, he lives here. He knows the places to fish, knows the best bottoms where these fish are going to move up if they do want to move shallow, and he is a hometown favorite. He's a local favorite. Him and Terry Scroggins. Preston Clark, Terry Scroggins got a lot of media attention. Terry Scroggins more so than him before the event started, just because these guys have a shot at finally breaking the jinx you mentioned, John. This could be the time we see a Florida guy win in the state of Florida, or any Classic angler win in their home state.
Yeah, and he's going for that $500,000 first prize, which would be huge. His wife expecting possibly triplets, so $500,000 would go a long way.
And look at the lead here. He's got it right now with 36-1. That's actually, he's above Luke. Luke was yesterday's leader.
And this is unofficial. These are estimated. weigh-in coverage this afternoon, which starts at 4:30 Eastern on ESPN. Kevin Worth has been on some fish. He has moved up from 4th after yesterday up into the 3rd position. And Rick Clunn, who was 5th yesterday, I don't see him on the leaderboard right there.
There's some stuff happening right now. A lot of guys are changing around, so we're seeing those leaders right now change, and that's the exciting part. Look at where these guys are fishing, John.
All right, you're down on Kissimmee. That's the southern end, all the way from where we are at the north end down to the southern end of Kissimmee. 40-mile run. You saw Preston Clark down near there. Edwin Evers.
Kevin Worth, Edwin Evers, they're all on the east bank, and that's the key. When that wind blows out of the east, these guys are along that eastern bank. It's a little more sheltered over there. They won't be handicapped by the wind, and the wind is starting to blow. We're sitting here right now on the shore. You can feel it, John.
Oh, yeah, you can definitely feel the wind, and we'll keep you updated all morning long with Bass Center in-game updates. And, of course, our coverage continues with the weigh-in on ESPN this afternoon at 4:30 Eastern from the Orange County Convention Center. Our live coverage now of the 36th Bassmaster Classic from Lake Toho, Kissimmee, Florida, continues as we throw it back to the live coverage gang headed by Tommy Saunders.
All right, don't forget, coming up today, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, fairly early this afternoon, Elimination Day weigh-in. You have to be among the top 25 if you want to fish on the final day. Can Preston Clark continue in his quest to be the only angler to win a Classic in his home state as he tries to win it for Florida? That and so much more. The highest total weight over 3 days wins $500,000, the biggest winning purse ever. The Citgo Bassmaster Classic continues on ESPN later today with a weigh-in at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. What is better than being in Florida in February? It's so nice out here today. The sun is out, a total swap around from yesterday. Beautiful weather. And I guess, Denny, well, you're wishing you were at that weigh-in tomorrow?
Yeah, you do. You know, when you're a professional fisherman, you got that competitive juices flowing all the time. And I just didn't catch them last year, so I can't be out there fishing. I know Byron just made a comment. He'd love to be out there. You don't catch them, you don't go to the big show.
Well, the weigh-in is a big show. You and I will be there watching all of that stuff going on. And, of course, our host for the weigh-in coverage, a man, well, his name is synonymous with football and basketball coverage on ESPN. He's one of everyone's favorite sportscasters. Ron Franklin, he's down on the Expo Center floor with Jerry McInnes right now.
And I tell you what, guys, it's unusual for somebody to be introducing Ron Franklin. You're usually introducing somebody.
Yeah, that's right.
We're glad to have you, though. And you know what? I want to know your pick. I want to hear your pick today and why. And incidentally, folks, Ron is not your run-of-the-mill host. He knows his stuff when it comes to bass fishing.
Maybe yeah, maybe no. You know what? Listen, I hate to jump on the bandwagon, but I think everybody's right about Preston. He may be the first guy to crack through and win, since a homestay guy has never done that. You know, we're about to have some real weather changes here. The wind's going to really come up this afternoon, rain this afternoon, wind and rain tomorrow with the temperature dropping again. He lives here. He has known how to adjust to it. So, and you know who my next pick is?
Who's that?
The sleeper. The ageless 59-year-old who came in yesterday.
Oh, my.
And, you know, Rick Clunn admits readily, and he said, I won't admit to any other tournament, but he said the only tournament I've ever been lucky in was Toho 1977 when he won it. He said, I admit I was lucky. Yesterday when I looked up and he caught that 10-10, Jerry, he was moving. He was sight fishing, and he had a spinner bait out, and he caught a 10-10. So I won't say that's luck. But
I will. I think he was lucky.
A little fortunate anyway. You can't keep him out of the fray.
Oh, he's the best, and so you do have to put him up. Hey, Ron, you have been to so many big events, especially college basketball, college football. How does the Bassmaster Classic compare to one of those events?
Boy, it's just getting right there. Because whether you're talking about college basketball in the Final Four, whether you're talking about now the national championship of the BCS, and I've had a chance to broadcast all of those over the years. It's this event, Jerry, is just, you know, it's creeping right up on it, and for good reason, because the people who organize this, the people who are, that's the most important thing right there. Like yesterday, I thought yesterday was a great day because the crowd was into it, the competitors were into it. You know, sorry that we had it overshadowed a little bit by what happened with Mike, but I thought yesterday was a terrific day for the tournament and also for the class.
And of course, those big fish didn't hurt anything, did they?
No, you know, and people love it. I mean, sit over next to that big tank that has a 15, a 12, and an 8.5 sitting in there. That 8.5 looks like a minnow compared to that 15. But when Klund reached down in there with two hands and pulled that thing out, and I thought, you know, here's the icon of all icons. He's just shattered the record by 2 pounds and 1 ounce, and Preston's just going to annihilate that. And, you know, and watching the people sitting around there, they really get into that. And I talked to several of my friends last night back in Austin, and they were just getting off to seeing all those big fish coming out of the live wells.
Ron, thank you so much for being here.
You bet.
I guess
My
we'll be
pleasure.
seeing you about 4:30 this afternoon.
Yes, sir. And we're not having dinner.
Oh, that's right. You and I are not
That's an inside joke, but you paid large when you go to dinner with Jerry. Tommy's still in coronary arrest after going 2 nights ago with us.
Get me out of here, Tommy. Come on, get me out of here.
Well, yeah, if Ron sees us coming, he's going to run the other way. Okay, we're going to take you out to the lake. We got some more news on Mike Iaconelli. Ron mentioned an unfortunate situation out there, disqualified yesterday. Robbie, what have you got for us today?
Well, I finally tracked him down. He's down at Kissimmee, and there's a lot of local boat traffic, I guess you say, around this area. A lot of lily pads, a lot of reeds. I pulled up to him just a moment ago, and he said that he did have 4 in the live well. I know some of the equipment says 3, but he told me that he had 4, so it hadn't updated yet. I don't think they're big fish, but he is catching them right now. I did see Scott Rook. He was probably only about 75 yards from him, and I hear, guys, he's moved up into 5th place, so you're starting to see a lot of guys fishing this same area. I'm counting where I'm at right now, probably literally within 200 to 300 yards, about 9 local boats, or, you know, guys are just out here on a normal weekend fishing. So it's tough for the anglers in the tournament today, but, you know, there are so many good spots to be had here. Another thing about Ike, he was pitching, you know, some type of crawl just a moment ago, but he's not just sticking with that. He's also throwing a spinnerbait trying to find something, Tommy.
All right, Robbie, has he got a big crowd with him today? Has the crowd even grown after what happened yesterday?
You know, it's kind of crazy. I mean, in the past couple of years, I've saw 30, 40 boats, you know, chasing, you know, a little flotilla. Not one boat is following Mike Iaconelli today.
That is interesting. Thank you so much, Robbie Floyd. He'll be watching Ike, all the rest of them out there today. All right, we got a special guest on the set with us as well. They get Jerry gets Ron Franklin. We get Terry Seagraves. Terry Seagraves is the traveling representative of Touring Bass Fishing Pro on the tour, on the Elite Series, and a representative for the town of Kissimmee. And what a big event this is for Kissimmee. First classic here in many, many years.
Oh, it is. It's just phenomenal to see the classic come to my hometown. The only problem is, like Denny, I'm not out there with them. I didn't fish well enough last year, but it is just phenomenal to see bass fishing wake up in this town. We've had such a great place to fish and so many great fishermen here, and the classic comes there and just showcases. I'm just excited just to be part of it.
Boy, Kissimmee works hard to get tourists of all kinds into town. The Bassmaster Classic big one. I heard the figure batted around of $20 million, a $20 million impact on Kissimmee. And I'm talking about a good impact, right?
Oh, yeah. I hope I see a little bit of that myself in my own pocket, but it is just phenomenal to see all the businesses I've been associated with over the years enjoying some of that impact. It's just great.
Who's going to win it?
You know, I don't know. You know, we're picking up the wind. I fished this lake a long time, and we talked about Rick Klund with the spinnerbait. When the wind blows, I throw a spinnerbait. So this spinnerbait may come in, and a few guys caught them yesterday on spinnerbait, so we may see some change around. We've got some great weather. I think the weather forecast has been missed a little bit this morning. The bedding fish are going to play a big role, but I think before the day's over with, this wind's going to take a toll, and things will change a little bit.
That wind starts coming right out of the north as it's predicted to tomorrow. Where do you see, in those years of experience, where do you see all the boats going?
Boy, you know, when you catch 29 pounds one day, you don't leave it too much. So if I was doing it, I had 29 pounds in the boat one day, and the wind picked up like that, I would probably get on a windy bank and start moving along and throwing a spinnerbait or a rattle trap, something fast to get that reactionary bite, because they are being changed around a little bit and then moving their locations, and it's going to be interesting.
All right, Terry Seagraves, the representative of Kissimmee reaping all the benefits of this huge classic, this Big Fish Classics Week. Thank you so much. Terry Seagraves, let's take you onto the scoreboard. The leaderboard is changing just as fast as we can look at it out here. Look at that. Now Preston Clark still on top, but Scott Rook, with 8 pounds of fish today, moves into 3rd place.
Scott has got himself in the hunt, Tommy. Great angler from Arkansas. Was not really in the picture that good, and that's what's going to happen. These guys up top, they mess up just a little bit. There's a bunch of these guys that are going to move up there, and if everybody's within 5 or 6 pounds each other tomorrow, it'll be a wide open hunt.
Boy, things are moving quickly. All right, when we come back, I tell you what, well, actually right now we're going to take a look at Kevin Vandam, our defending champion. Boy, he was on a roll. Has the roll ended?
Woke up this morning, wanted to cry. Then I remember, yeah, I knew she's a real good one for having a cake. I'm gonna go fishing and I'm gonna pull out my tank. I'm gonna go fishing. I'm gonna go fishing. Gonna go fishing.
Oh my God, that's only stock crickets on.
Need to check out Bassmaster.com. On the Water live chat is powered by mobile ESPN. You need to check that out as well. Gives you the opportunity to chat with anglers as they fish. Online users can participate in that. 10 pro anglers as they compete in the Classic. 10 anglers per day. Log on to Bassmaster.com. Fans are invited to submit questions to a specific angler. And that angler the question will be phoned into the angler's boat. There's our leader right now. Preston Clark, Palatka, Florida. This whole deal a part of On the Water live chat powered by mobile ESPN. Preston Clark, currently our leader. He's caught 4 fish, 8 pounds of fish today. That's what you do to keep yourself ahead of the crowd. All right, 2 guys, Denny Brower, that we thought were going to be in the lead today. Kevin Vandam, Aaron Martens. That was the big marquee matchup, built all the way in the 6 months from last year's Classic all up to this one. It just hasn't panned out, although Aaron Martens is getting over the hump right now.
Well, that's tournament fishing. You don't always perform up to your best every tournament. Kevin normally does, and that's why we think he's automatically going to be in the hunt every tournament, especially a tournament like the Classic. But he's faltering. He's kind of taking himself out of the picture right now. And unless he really picks the pace up, he will not even make the cut. Aaron's he's starting to make that move. He catches a couple of big fish. Those leaders stumble. It'll, he'll put himself in contention to possibly win this event and get that monkey off his back.
Kevin was on pretty much a superhuman roll, and it's interesting when you look at the matchup between these two anglers, the head-to-head matchup between Aaron Martens and Kevin Vandam coming into this tournament. Well, it's pretty impressive on the side of Vandam. 2 Classic wins, 10 Tour wins. You see 3 wins there for Aaron Martens, but the fact is he's won in the Open championships, a little bit below the Tour level. He's never won, actually, outside of the state of California yet. He's got a Sit-Go Angler of the Year title. Last year, he was the best overall, most consistent angler throughout the year.
Very, very versatile angler.
Let's take a look at their track from yesterday through the Kissimmee chain of lakes, starting on Lake Toho up there and Kissimmee. Aaron Martens, Kevin Vandam.
As you can see, they're making a long run all the way down there to Kissimmee, getting on that east bank like Jerry referred to earlier, covering a lot of water down there, and that's part of the key, getting in the right area, moving around, finding those fish, finding the fish that are on the beds. Both of these guys know how to catch them if they can get around them. Obviously, they're around them. These local boats, other competitors, could play a huge factor before the tournament's over.
We haven't heard too much about that. Let's hope it doesn't play an adverse factor on these guys, these boats, and we'll look into that a lot more. Right now, Mark May has been looking further into the Kevin Vandam situation. What do you have for us right now, Mark?
Well, guys, starting the day, Kevin Vandam was on the bubble in 25th place. And remember, you've got to make the top 25 to make the cut to get to tomorrow. For Kevin Vandam, he's the reigning champion, the defending Bassmasters champion. He's won 3 consecutive bass tournaments. He's trying to set a record to win 4, but he's got to pick it up today. His strengths, power fishing, and fishing extremely fast. Not only that, today he's got to start fishing as fast as he can and catch a lot of fish just to make the cut. Right now, 1 fish in a boat, 25th place.
Mark, as a former athlete on the highest level, you know what it's like to hold up a string, to be thought of as a superhero, and to do superhuman things like you talk about, those 3 wins in a row. Does that pressure finally get to a guy? I mean, is there a point where you just think, man, I can't concentrate on it anymore. I'm just worried about keeping this string alive, keeping this win streak going?
Well, you do get in that position. You want to just keep your string alive, but the bottom line is you want to win. It's for $500,000. You're the defending champion. It's like in 1982 we won the Super Bowl, in '83 we went back, but we lost. And our goal was to get back to the Super Bowl, but not to get back to win it. And I think if you look at Kevin Vandam, his goal is probably to make the final. His goal has to be to get back to the final and win the championship. He's got to have that mindset. But first, he's got to make that cut. Right now, he's in 29th place, guys. He's got to make it to the top 25, and then tomorrow have a huge day and try to become the 2nd winner of the Bassmasters Championship.
All right, thank you so much, Mark May. Making that top 25, that is Kevin Vandam's main goal right now, as Mark mentioned, and it's hard. But Kevin Vandam Vandam is the man for the job. Wouldn't you agree, Denny?
Well, Kevin handles pressure so well. You know, he can be behind. Some guys would be totally bothered by that. Kevin's got so much confidence. It doesn't matter whether he's 20, 30 pounds behind. He feels that he can make that comeback, and that's half of fishing, having that confidence, knowing what to do under each condition. Kevin knows that. He's the best angler out there right now. If anybody can make that comeback, Kevin's the guy.
All right, let's take a look at Kevin Vandam, the angler from Kalamazoo, Michigan, 38 years old, and what a career he has had so far. Compared to Tiger Woods, we talk about Kevin overtaking all the legends of the sports, breaking all the records. Well, he's certainly been on track to do that in the past year. His best finish in the Classic, of course, in 01 and 05. He is the winner. Let's take a look at Kevin Vandam from day one of this 2006 Citgo Bassmaster Classic.
Say this is what we live for. First day of the Bassmasters Classic. There's a lot of people with a lot of nerves right now, but I'm telling you, the weather is perfect. The conditions that I couldn't have scripted it any better than this. So now it's just up to me.
Right. The weather, he referred to the weather being perfect. It could have been snowing out, and Kevin would still said it's perfect. He doesn't lose confidence any old way or any old time.
You can see him. Is he moving too fast for Florida fishing? You can't stop Kevin Vandam from moving fast, really, can you, Denny?
Kevin is the best fast angler out there, Tommy, but Kevin knows how to slow down. He's flipping soft plastics around the arrowheads right there. He is not moving too fast. He's a smart angler. He knows when to slow down. He knows when to speed up. He's in great water right there. Great water. See those little clumps of arrowheads, Tommy? A lot of those fish like to spawn around them, and he's pitching right to those clumps. They'll be spawning right at the bases of those clumps. He'll just kind of ease it through there. Then he got a bite, just pulling it by those clumps. Great, great job.
You figure anybody's going to figure something out in the last minute. Anybody's going to get something going in the last moment. Just to make the cut, it's going to be Kevin Vandam. And if he gets in that top 25 and a whole set of different circumstances happen, you got to watch out for this guy. You can't ever count him out, can you?
You can't count him out, and plus his competitors are looking where he's at in the standings. And if they come in tonight and see that he made a big move, they're going to start to get a little nervous because they know Kevin, the one guy that can probably go out there and blow this tournament wide open, and he's liable to do that.
All right, Kevin Vandam. He's a phenomenon. Absolutely, Kevin Vandam. All right, we're going to take a break. Let's take a look at what Kevin Vandam did last year at his Classic win, the 2005 Classic on the Three Rivers in Pittsburgh.
Yes. Good man.
Kevin Vandam, the smallest winning weight in the history of the Classic, just under 13 pounds. But Kevin Vandam shows he's tough. Was he tough enough to make it into the top 25 here in the 2006 Classic? We'll keep following. Don't go away. There's our playing field, the 2006 Citgo Bassmaster Classic, legendary Lake Toho. All the records were set back here in a Bassmaster tournament in 2001. Dean Rojas set them all. Those records have stood, and they've stood so far the onslaught of this 2006 Classic. West Toho, simply to the locals, that's what they call it, the northern navigable lake of the Kissimmee chain, just south of Orlando, Florida. A long history, as we say, of gigantic bass. It is a fisherman's haven, a fisherman's mecca, a place where you want to go, a place where you want to wind up. Last Classic was back here in 1977. Only 26 competitors. Now, there was a Classic where you could really do some good back in the day, Denny Brower.
Yeah, your odds were a little better then, but it didn't pay near as good, Tommy.
Look at that. The average age hasn't changed too much. 37 years old back then, a little bit older, just a skew earlier, but what has changed a lot, 25 grand to the winner back there. Now it's $500,000.
That's absolutely amazing that it can be that much.
All right, there's the trophy. That's what they're looking for right there. Along with that comes the check for that $500,000. Tommy Sanders here with the former Classic champ, Denny Brower. We'll ask you later what you won back in 1998. I don't think it was quite a $500,000 either. One of the stars of the future, stars of today as well, is Greg Hackney as well. Greg Hackney, of course, has won his first tournament last year. Let's take a look at Greg Hackney from today. He's making a move up the leaderboard, currently in 8th place.
Greg's a great angler. You just wait for him to win the big tournament.
Originally from Arkansas, grew up fishing the Arkansas River, now lives down in Gonzales, Louisiana. This is his 4th Classic appearance. His highest finish, though, he's had sort of a Classic jinx. No higher than 31st back in 2003. Kind of went on tilt, went the wrong direction last year on the Three Rivers.
Yeah, he really did, but he keeps catching fish like that. He's going to make up for it here. He's making a huge move. He may put himself back in the hunt today.
Currently in 8th place. All right. Trying to get up there to 4 pounds for today. Good keeper, so maybe Greg Hackney has got something going on this day 2 of the Classic. He's looking good right now to make the top 25. Will fish on the final day, 32 years old. Again, his best Classic finish. Used to work out in the logging woods, used to be around a pulpwood truck, so this is much better, much easier work than doing that.
Yeah, he's still in the outdoors. That's about the only similarity to being a logger. He probably enjoys this job a little bit more than the one he had.
He's one of the greatest shallow water fishermen we have out there today. What do you think is his one true, really strength, superhuman strength that puts him ahead of so much of this field?
Well, he's a tremendous jig fisherman, Tom. He's a great flipper and pitcher, and as you can see right there, it looked like he was flipping a jig or a soft plastic into the reeds. That's his strength. Fishing your strength, you're always more comfortable. I would hate to be out there doing something I'm not comfortable with, trying to make a comeback on these guys as good as they're catching them. He's at a comfort level with how he's fishing. He's liable to catch them.
I'm not sure about this, but I think this is the first time he's ever been in a top 10 now in a Classic. Is this going to be a breakthrough for him? Is he going to put that monkey again that we talk about off his back and maybe make a charge for the lead?
Yeah, I think you have to learn how to fish the Classic. In your first few events, you're just kind of taken up by the moment. Once you've been there a few times, you get a little mad at yourself because you're not catching them. He's mad at himself right now. He wants to catch them. He wants to show the world he's a good fisherman.
All right, we have a Bass Center in-game coming up here in just a moment or two. They're going to update you on everything from down there at Lakefront Park. Right now, let's look at the scoreboard up to the minute. From the lake out there, Toho and Kissimmee. Preston Clark still with that big lead. 37 pounds unofficially.
They're starting to separate themselves a little bit, Tommy. Look at 37 pounds. You go to 4th place, 25 pounds. That's huge. That's a 12-pound lead right there. If it keeps going like this, it's going to be a 2-man hunt going into the final day. And that's not bad, but I'd hate that. There's so many other guys catching such good stringers, you hate to see them get eliminated. It'd be nice if we'd have about 25 guys going wide open.
Well,
tomorrow.
one of our legends has dropped out of the top 10 from yesterday. That would be Rick Clunn, but he's not far out of the top 10. You saw Larry Nixon moving up there. Davey Height, the former Classic champ in the mix, too, and Tommy Biffle. He's got 2 second places, too. He's not the only man with the monkey on his back with the Classic.
Well, we had a lot of guys that early weren't catching them yesterday, and in the afternoon made a huge, huge move. So these guys still got plenty of time today to get right up there and get in the hunt.
All right, that red line right there under the 25th place means you are in jeopardy. If you don't make the top 25, you do not get to fish the Classic on the final day. You're hanging around at the Outdoors Expo. You can follow it all in real time. It's all going on right now at Bassmaster.com. It's easy to get to, and man, oh man, you can learn so much more. There's so many stories about what's going on. If you want some good background as to what is going on at this Classic right now, by all means, log on to Bassmaster.com. The last page of that leaderboard, the guys who really, really have to kick it into the next gear if they're going to make the cut.
Yeah, it looks like Chad may be working the outdoor show tomorrow rather than fishing the way he's going. There's several anglers. Rookie of the Year, Dave Wolock, he's down there. He hasn't caught a fish yet today. Timmy Horton, great angler, but continues to have bad Classic performances.
All right. Coming up, we're going to take you down to Lakefront Park in Kissimmee, Florida. The Bass Center gang is standing by with some good stuff for us. It's time now for the Bass Center in-game.
This Bass Center in-game update is brought to you by Lawrence Electronics.
Welcome back to Lakefront Park. I'm John Kernan along with Byron Velvick for this Bass Center in-game update at the 36th Bassmaster Classic.
The monster, the Super Bowl, and the land of giants and the Super Bowl all come together here at Toho.
$1.2 million on the line. $500,000 going to the winner. Now, we all remember last year, Greg Hackney was a favorite headed into the Classic at Pittsburgh. Didn't have a very good showing. He's back here with a vengeance, and he's out there on the fish this morning, Byron. And check it right there, looking at the grass.
Oh, you know what? He's actually right here flipping the grass, throwing a jig up in there, and this is what he loves to do. They talked about it just earlier. We had Denny Brower talk about it. It's Denny's strength. It's also his strength. Look at that. Hackney is actually going to jump up with this fish, and he's got a good one. He's fighting it, keeping it down as best he can. Go, Hackney! Come on! Bounce the fish in. He's an animal. I've seen him bounce 7 and 8 pounders in. This guy is not afraid to put any fish in the boat, and bouncing him is just taking him and swinging him over the gunnel. He's the king of it.
Right now, he is tied in the 8th position. Of course, the top 25 after today's weigh-in move on to fish on Sunday. Preston Clark, unofficially your leader. These are estimates, 37 pounds, 1 ounces. He and Luke Clawson, I think these guys are pretty safe as far as going into tomorrow.
They should have a problem making it.
All right, well, let's head out on the water for an update. Here's Kim Bain.
Yep, g'day guys. I'm out here on Cypress Lake, and one angler making a definite charge is Greg Hackney. Now, he finished up yesterday in 11th place, and he's having a pretty good day here on Cypress. He's moved up into 8th inside the top 10. Now, he is one of the few anglers to fish Cypress. Of course, as we've seen, a lot of anglers are sticking with Toho or Kissimmee, but just one of 2 anglers on Cypress. The other angler, KVD, Kevin Vandam, but he isn't having such a good day. He's fallen right back into 29th place, right out of the bubble, and not looking like he'll make it for tomorrow, the top 25, unless he really pulls out something special. Over to Robbie.
Thanks, Kim. I'm actually in Kissimmee, and I'm just behind Scott Rook right now, and he said he was having some problem with some of the local traffic out here. The reason you can't see me is because I'm trying to run the trolling motor because there's a light breeze. I also said, hey, is this sun going to help you out a little bit? And he said, no, it's actually windy, and it's muddied it up just a little bit. So, he's kind of pitching in, the toolies or the reeds, but he also has lily pads on the other side. So everything's looking good for Scott Rook. He has 2 fish today, and he's moving into the top 5. I think he's on a roll. He said he caught most of his fish yesterday in the afternoon.
All right, Robbie, thank you very much. Don't forget, Bass Center comes your way at 11 o'clock Eastern this morning on ESPN2. Now let's go back to Tommy Sanders and the crew for our continuing live coverage.
We are back with our live coverage of the Citgo Bassmaster Classic 2006. It's Elimination Day. You got to be in the top 25. So much to see there in the Outdoor Expo there in the Orange County Convention Center. One of the biggest and best outdoor shows in the country. All right, we are ready to continue now. We got more coverage on the way. Who knows what's going to come up next, Denny?
You really don't. This weigh-in is going to be fantastic today. We had a great crowd yesterday, Tommy. That's something you always wonder about when you change the Classic from one time of year to the other. Are you going to maintain that crowd? But we have. I think there's 4,000 or 5,000 people first day. That's awesome.
All right. Are we going out on the water next? Or just hold on 1 second here. Okay. All right. All right. Oh, yes, we got to talk about the changes coming up in the schedule for next year. This is the first time ever the Classic has been held to start the season. It's always been an end-of-the-season thing. Let's take a look at the tour stops we had in 2005. 6 tour stops. That goes all the way up to 11 tour stops. Visited 9 states last year, 12 states this year. It's also the addition of 3 majors, 3 major tournaments that are 50-man fields. It's going to be something absolutely different. What do you think about all the changes, especially starting the year with the Classic, Denny?
Obviously, I like it. Look at the fish catches. You don't have those during the middle of the summer. Coming here this time of the year, you're going to get those giant fish. You're going to get those giant stringers. Makes for better TV. Makes for better weigh-ins. And plus, now you get the season, the whole season right after the Classic. It makes more sense. It's kind of like NASCAR, where you have the Daytona 500 right at the beginning, moving right into the whole season. And that's what we've got now. And what a season we've got.
Well, the ideal is to sort of get the snowball rolling, get all the momentum going throughout the season. And this season has really been lauded by all the fishermen. They really look at it as an opportunity to hit these lakes at the time when the fishing is best.
I thought last year we had the worst schedule we ever had in the history of bass fishing. This year, without a doubt, we've got the best schedule. If you were going to take a trip, you'd want to take a trip to these lakes that we've got our tournaments on this year. Absolutely fantastic fisheries. I look for us to break every record that's ever been set season-wise. Tremendous weights are going to happen.
Well, absolutely. The anglers, as we say, are very much in favor of this schedule. As a matter of fact, their favorite lake of all time, Champlain, is included. Let's hear what the anglers have to say about the new schedule for 2006.
I've heard it all year. It is starting, Classic in the winter. Is it good? Is it bad? Hey, as long as we're moving forward, it's all good.
I compare it to the Daytona 500 in NASCAR. We're starting with our biggest event.
Yes. You better be on your A game when you get here and not ease into it.
The fishermen are pretty set in their ways. There's no doubt about that. But, change is fun at times. There's always things to be excited about, and I think the excitement here is a chance of catching a really big fish. It's kind of hard to get in the Classic mode because usually we have 3 or 4 months to think about it. And this time we haven't had the time to get prepared for it.
I ain't scared to change. If this is what it takes to go to the next level, let's fish it whenever. But I think it's going to be different. It's going to offer the fans a new look, and it's going to offer the fishermen a chance to fish at a different time of year besides when it's just burning hot.
We're going to hit a time of the year right now when most people are cold and they can't go fishing. So what's the next best thing to do? That's watch it.
This is the Daytona 500 and the Super Bowl all wrapped into one right here.
character to the Citgo Bassmaster Classic 2006. 51 competitors, the top 51 anglers in the world at this particular date and the time. That includes Anglers of the Year. Well, there are 9 of them in the field, 7 Classic winners, only 3 first-timers this time around at an average age of 22. 3 first-timers in the Classic. That's kind of a low number, really, Denny.
It really is. Usually about a third of the field are brand new individuals, and this time these guys are all experienced, so it's going to be a different deal. But some of them newcomers, they're doing really good.
They're doing really well. Luke Clawson, you might think, was a newcomer. The guy's only 27 years of age, the youngest competitor in this year's Classic field, but Luke Clawson has been to multiple Classics before. But what a home run he hit yesterday, zooming in on 30 pounds of fish. 30 pounds in a Classic would have been just almost unheard of.
He's got to be on top of the world. To catch a stringer like that right off the bat, he's catching them already this morning. But this guy's not new to catching them. He's caught them in other tournaments. He's won big dollar tournaments. He's liable to win this tournament and take home that $500,000.
Let's take a look at Luke Clawson, his map from today out on Lake Toho in Kissimmee. All right, starting up at the launch at Kissimmee, Florida. Of course, you got 4 lakes to choose from there. He chooses to lock through the Southport Lock, down the canal. Hatchinaha and Cypress are bypassed to go straight to that southeast shore of Kissimmee.
Yeah, he's actually losing a lot of fishing time compared to Preston Clark. It's probably taken him about an hour to get down there. Preston Clark, it's taken him 5 minutes to get to his water.
Luke Clawson has fallen out of the lead right now. He's second now to Preston Clark, about a pound and a half behind him unofficially. But there's the first catch of the day from the man from Spokane Valley, Washington.
Looks like he's throwing a worm or something in isolated patches of lily pads. Boy, that's a big old fish right there, Tommy.
Well, that's one of the fish that are keeping him and Preston Clark a good 10 pounds ahead of the rest of this field. You see, and he's stopping this guy.
Wow. He did a great job of landing it. You know, with a big fish like that, you really need to bend down and grab him by the lip.
Age 27, but as you can imagine, at that tender age, he's been to multiple Classic. He's been a pro fisherman just about all of his adult life. This is his 3rd Classic appearance. Best finish, though, he's never made the cut in the Classic. He's pretty much a shoe-in to make the cut this time around. All right. Luke Clawson, what a big hit he made on day 1. The young angler from Washington, Luke Clawson, on his first day's action in the Classic.
My very first cast, I caught a 7-pounder, and it just kind of the roll started from there. Everywhere I went after that, I'd catch a couple 3-pounders, and I'd catch another 5 or 6-pounder. And the day was just one of those days you couldn't do anything wrong. Everything went perfectly. Just fishing professionally with these kind of people like Larry Nixon, Rick Clunn, idols of mine since I was a little kid. It's really a dream come true, and then making it to the Classic and be leading after the first day is just incredible. I just run things through my mind, how I'm going to catch them the next 2 days, because the ultimate goal is the $500,000.
Trying to go wire to the wire in the Classic, well, it's kind of hard to do. The wire-to-wire winners can be counted on the fingers of one hand plus one, starting with Rick Clunn back in 1977, right here at Lake Toho, Kissimmee, Florida. Hank Parker did it. Bo Dowden, a one-time Classic winner. Ditto Stanley Mitchell, and Rick Clunn, of course, did it again in the Arkansas River in 1984 when he set all the 3-day catch records. Of course, that was back in the days when they had a 7-fish limit. We got a 5-fish limit now. Yeah, Jay Ellis, again, we should mention, did it back in 2002 on Lay Lake. Hard thing to do, win wire-to-wire, Denny.
Yeah, all the media attention gets focused on you. You got to guard away from those distractions, and it's tough to do when you're leading. Better to come from 2nd, 3rd, or 4th the last day.
All right. Got so much more going on. Luke Clawson in 2nd place. A great story when we come back. Marc Menendez reached the lowest point in his career. Viral meningitis in mid-season last year. He climbed back all the way into the Citgo Bassmaster Classic, and he's doing well. That story when we come back.
Yeah. Come here, hog. Oh, that's a giant. Let's go to dancing now. Woo, that's the right kind.
Our first champion of the Bassmaster Classic 1971, Bobby Murray.
Hey, yeah, pal. We live in a country that'll let us go as far as we want. So how far we excel or how high we go depends on each individual.
Don't do it slow. I know how a man feels on death row. Put him on the scale, do it.
Classic champion Michael Iaconelli, 2004
doubt about it. Weigh-ins have changed since the early days. Man, oh man, we got a big weigh-in coming up today, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Our returning champion, Kevin Vandam, defending champ, is in 29th place as we speak right now. He's got to work to make it into the last day's fishing, much less make it to that weigh-in stage and be the winning defending champion. Okay, can Preston Clark hang on, be the only Florida angler, the only angler to win in his home state ever in the history of the Classic, or will it be the man from the Spokane Valley, Washington? Would it be Luke Clawson? Well, we'll see how those guys progress. The weigh-in coming up today, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time over on ESPN. Man, so many stories working out there on the water. We're covering all of them for you today on our live coverage. Goes all the way up to 11 o'clock, Bass Center. Of course, at 11 o'clock with another 30 minutes of good coverage for you. But right now, a great story that has emerged through this year is the story of Marc Menendez. Going along well last season, stricken down by viral meningitis, pulled himself back up, got all the way back into the Classic, and man has had a great Classic so far here in 2006. An amazing comeback story from Marc Menendez.
You ready? Let's go get a truck. Come on, buddy. Let's go fishing. You ready to catch one? That's what I thought. It's been a while since we've been out here together. We didn't know there for a while if we were ever going to get to do this again, but it sure is nice to be up here where we belong. The illness kind of caught me off guard. I was at Guntersville at a tour event. I called my wife, Donna, and said, hey, I'm on the ground, I'm safe. But I've got a headache like I've never had. He called my dermatologist, and he asked her to perform a couple of simple tests, and he could hear me screaming in the background. Said, Donna, take him to the hospital and tell them he has meningitis. Go now, don't waste any time. During the initial stages of being in the hospital in Alabama, it killed me. The headaches were intense during that time period, and you just don't have any strength to amount to anything. There's my daughter, Caroline. We've got another child coming. I'm gonna have to get well so that I can provide a means so that I can raise my children. I tried not to focus on the what if I wouldn't be able to continue to fish, but it would etch its way into my mind, and it really was depressing. So anytime I could go to my dad's and fish in his front yard for 15 or 20 minutes, or get in the boat and organize my tackle, it lifted my spirits because I knew fishing was out there for me somewhere. My first event back was in West Point in Alabama. Not really ready to compete, was worn out, actually took a day off of practice because I was just so tired, and things fell into place perfectly. The first day of the tournament, I was in 3rd place. Second day, I was leading it. And the last day, I caught enough fish to win the event by 7 pounds. And that was the confidence I'd been lacking due to my illness. I didn't know if I'd ever get to do this again, but by winning that tournament, it put me into high gear saying, you know, hey, you still got it in you.
A couple of months later, our son is born and everything crashed again. 3 hours after he was born, he was in an airplane going to Cosair's Medical Children's Hospital. That was really hard. They told us there's a possibility that he wouldn't make it past 48 hours.
We went to Louisville. I had a tournament coming up in Guntersville. Max's stay had to be extended about 3 days, so he had to stay there. Donna had to stay in Louisville, and she urged me. She says, Mark, you got to go. I didn't want to go to the tournament. I wanted to stay there with them, and she says, you know, I've got it covered. He's going to be all right, so let's go on and get you on down to the next event so that you can get to the Classic.
I really wanted him to be there, especially after the year he had.
Little large head, all right. It's just an awesome feeling to have qualified again. It means so much to a fisherman. That's how we gain our credibility, our stature within the business. There's a fish. There's a fish. All right. Oh, it's a good bass, too. All right. What do you say, Barkley? How about that?
From what we've been through, fishing doesn't really make that much of a difference in life, but he loves it. And for him to win the Classic would be a dream come true.
5 like that every morning in the Classic, Barkley, will get us started real quick. That's the first fish caught in this boat. See, I would have had to stay till at least, you know, noon or 2 or 3 fishing until I caught one, because you never want to go and fish the first day with your new boat and not catch one out of it. Mission accomplished.
Let's take a look at the timeline from Mark Menendez. Amazing comeback. Way back in February, had the diagnosis, and it's several months later before he feels well enough to fish a tournament, but wins his first tournament on the way back. Truly remarkable. And then the trouble when son Max is born. 79th in the Southern Open. And boy, qualifying for the Bassmaster Classic from that Open Championship is one of the hardest things to do in the world. His whole comeback is just incredible, the fact that he is in the Classic at all.
It really is. People don't realize how tough it is to go out and put in those 14, 15-hour practice days, tournament 8, 9-hour days. After you've been off an illness like that, it's tough to work yourself back into tournament form. He's done a great job. He's back to catching fish the way he did before. Not only is he a great fisherman, folks, but he's one of the nicest guys on tour. I work with him on the Strike King Pro staff day in and day out, and he's the same person all the time. Just super nice, class act.
Okay, let's take a look at the day one highlights from Mark Menendez. Of course, getting your stamina back is the main thing, and Mark Menendez appears to have 100% of his stamina back, even though he showed up at the flu down here at Lake Toho to start this Classic competition. Day one, well, he gets things going. It's nice to put one in the boat early, right, Denny?
It always is. Get the momentum going your way. You know, Mark's got a little ground to catch up, and very important for him to catch a couple of good fish early.
Again, this is action from day one. Mark Menendez, not knowing really what lay in store for him at this Classic on Toho and the Kissimmee chain. But Mark Menendez putting some good fish in the boat during the course of his day. He talks about the fatigue. He talks about the strength you need to stay in the boat. A lot of people think it's just riding around in a boat. It is not, Denny.
You know, we've had football players come and fish as amateurs in our tournament that have never had that hard a week in their life. They don't realize how the muscles are used. Standing all day long, it's a totally different deal. This isn't a 2-hour game and you're out. There's no timeouts. From dawn till dark, a lot of days working hard.
You get one foot to stand on and one foot to steer your boat with. That makes it hard on a man's spine and his whole musculoskeletal system as well.
You don't need to tell me. I've had 5 back operations, Tommy. This is a very physical sport. Boy, he's hooked up again. And this is a big fish. These are the type of fish that get you back up the leaderboard. Leaders stumble, you have a chance to win, Tommy.
Right, Mark Menendez talking about his day on the water, day one. What a fantastic day it was.
All day long.
That topped his stringer the first day. He gets a couple like that today. He will be awesome.
Mark Menendez, 41 years of age, thought his career might have been over, but has come all the way back with an amazing, amazing performance. Was 14th place yesterday, currently in 29th position. Mark Menendez from Paducah, Kentucky again. What a great day, a great way to say that you're all the way back into the Classic like the day he had yesterday.
It got to me, first time. It got to me. And Rick was on there, and I'm sure we're going to see a lot of that. And the old eyes welled up, and I'm just thankful to be here. It's such an added bonus. It's just a big thrill. Just to be here is enough. But once I get here, I get a little bit greedy, and that's just human nature. And to have the day that I had today, I caught 5, and that's the limit. And unfortunately, I had some good ones in there. All right.
With a comeback like that, how can you not pull for a guy like Mark Menendez in this 2006 Classic? Mark May, our reporter out on the water. Mark, I know you've spent a lot of time getting ready for this Classic in preparation and on the water in tournament action with Mark Menendez, right? Have you enjoyed your time? He's pretty inspirational, isn't he?
Well, yes, I did, Tommy. I spent the entire day with him, and I didn't know it would be that exhausting. We were out on the water for 8 hours. As a veteran of 13 years in the NFL, I thought it was a tough day. I'm in pretty good shape, but I was sore after today. Going 70 miles an hour on the water was like going through 2 series of goal line or short yardage football with pads on. But the day was very interesting. Mark Menendez taught me a lot that day. And not only about his spiral meningitis the year before that he battled back through, but he's battling the flu this week. The entire week, he was battling the flu, and he's been tired and exhausted and dehydrated the entire week. For him to be out here all day, it's just amazing, guys.
All right, well, Mark, you know how he's feeling today? Did you get a chance to talk to him this morning before the takeoff, Mark May?
No, I didn't. I didn't have a chance because we were running around, screwing around, trying to get done what we had to do. But I want to congratulate him on such a tremendous day he had yesterday. And for him to be here at this point, it's just impressive. Not coming back for the spiral meningitis, as I mentioned, but having the flu this week. And he doesn't have his best friend, Barkley, his dog, with him this week. So he's kind of at a disadvantage. But for him to stay in the hunt, as he's done so far in his tournament, has been extremely impressive to me.
All right, thank you. Mark May, who's been following the progress, the great comeback progress of Mark Menendez. Mark Menendez, as we look at the scoreboard now, Luke Clawson has retaken the lead from Preston Clark. These guys are, again, threatening to run away from the rest of this crowd. No one else seems to be getting within 10 pounds of these two very special anglers. Larry Nixon, the legend, has moved up into 5th position. We're going to keep swapping around. We'll stay after the action for you. More classic coverage when we return. We are back. More live coverage of the 2006 Citgo Bassmaster Classic. The fishing is ongoing on this morning of the second day, Elimination Day. You have to be in the top 25 if you want to make it to the final day and get a shot at the trophy and the $500,000. Action taking place right there on Lake Toho, Kissimmee, Florida, and the Kissimmee chain of lakes, also including Lake Kissimmee. Man, a big day going on right now. A lot of scoreboard changes going on. We're going to keep you updated on all of that good stuff going on. Luke Clawson back in the lead right now at this moment. I tell you what, Denny, who do you think of when you think of most familiar faces from fishing on TV?
Without a doubt, Bill Dance. He's been around forever. Everybody knows his name. He's a great angler when he was fishing. Great angler now that he's not fishing by doing the TV.
I think of two names. I think of Bill Dance and Jerry McInnes, and now we get a chance to throw to both those guys together for this one opportunity in one place. Go, guys.
Tommy, it's such a thrill for me to have Bill here because I can remember a little kid watching him on TV.
I'm a year younger than you. What are you talking about?
Bill Dance and I could go on and on about our lives, but I'm not going to do that. I want to zero in on one thing. Bill, you fished your first classic, I believe, in '72, which was the second classic, and then you were in every classic while you competed for the next 8 years, right?
Right.
But '83 was very special, and I want you to try to relay that story to our audience.
'73, yeah. '73 was a tournament on Clark Hill Reservoir, and I had a deep water pattern, very dependable fish in about 38 feet of water. Charles Searcy was my observer writer from the Chattanooga Times at that time. But anyway, as it would have it, the third day of the tournament, I had a limit of fish. It was 10 fish at that time. I had a limit, you know, all 3 days. I weighed in the last day, and everyone was congratulating me, you know, that you've won this tournament. But I remembered something Diane, my wife, had always said: everything happens for a reason. And I remember about an hour before weigh-in, I had a fish on about 4.5, 5 pounds. And American Sportsman was shooting that. And they asked to leave the fish in the water and see if we could get one jump, and like a dodo, I did.
You are a dodo.
I am a dodo. This is true. This is true. That's another story. But anyway, the fish jumped, and naturally he threw it. But I went on just thinking, well, you know, I'll get another one, and everything happens for a reason, thinking about, you know, what Diane said. Anyway, I got in, and 10 fish, weighed in, had a limit all 3 days, and something that I was the only one to limit all 3 days. And there was one boat left to weigh in. And surprisingly, that boat broke down about a quarter of a mile away from the weigh-in. And Roland Martin saw the boat and pulled the boat in. And it was Rayo Breckenridge.
Rayo Breckenridge.
And Rayo came in, he weighed in, and he beat me by like 2.5 pounds. And I guess nothing affected me more than that. That loss just about crushed me, because that was one thing, that's a Super Bowl. You really wanted to win that, and I did. I wanted to win it, and I had it won, I thought. Well, anyway, to make a long story short, I was depressed and really down, and Diane walked up to me and she said, I'm going to tell you a little story. Rayo in Maryland, they were farming people from northeast Arkansas. They'd had a couple of bad years farming, and times were real bad. And you don't know this, but I want to tell you, Maryland is about to lose her sight. And if they could win this classic, they would have enough money for her to get an eye operation to save her sight. And when she told me that, I thought, everything happens for a reason.
Everything
and, hey,
happens for a
that
reason.
feeling just melted away. And the loss, I accepted it just like that, and I've never looked back.
Yeah, that's great, and I have heard that story before.
It's
I'm glad you
story.
took just a little time to tell it to us. And Bill, congratulations on a wonderful career and being such a great ambassador for our sport. And
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it.
I got to throw it back to Sanders. He's chomping at the bits.
All right, Tom, it's your turn.
Thank you so much, guys. Bill Dance with Jerry McInnes going to take you back down to Lakefront Park, Kissimmee, Florida. It is time now for our Bass Center in-game update. All the latest from the guys. Get ready.
This Bass Center in-game update is brought to you by Toyota.
welcome you back live to Lake Toho, Kissimmee, Florida for this Bass Center in-game update along with Byron Velvick. I am John Kernan. This is the Bassmaster Classic Super Bowl of bass fishing. 51 anglers out there on the water right now. 26 of them are going home after today. Luke Clawson, though, day one leader, also set a record 11 pounds, 10 ounces on Friday. Biggest bass ever caught in the Classic. But right now, Byron, 4 fish this morning. Total weight only estimated at 10 pounds.
Weights are off today, John. If you look at the whole leaderboard, all the weights being caught. Luke here is catching fish, yes, again, and this, no slouch of a fish, but nothing like yesterday. First cast, he caught a 7-pounder yesterday, backed it up with an 8-pounder about an hour and a half later. Here he's catching a nice fish, and these are the fish that are going to keep him where he needs to be. Look at him put that beautiful fish in the boat. It is a good one, but again, like I said, the weights are really off today compared to yesterday at the same time. We're here on the shore of the lake. We're seeing a lot of difference between those 2 days right now.
You know, it's amazing. You look out where Luke is, and you don't see hardly any wake action at all, and it's just chopping up right behind us.
Howling on us.
Wow, here's a look at the unofficial leaderboard. Once again, the weights added to yesterday's are estimates.
Yep, Preston Clark, Luke Lawson right up there, and they are putting a pretty big push against the other guys. Kevin Worth is on a comeback, though, but let's look at some of the other guys. I mean, right off the bat, we've seen a big slip with Rick Lund.
Yep.
Where'd he go?
He's out of the top 10, and look at Kevin Vandam, who is going for an unprecedented 4th straight tournament victory. He's in 32nd, in danger of missing the cut. Let's go to Mark Zona.
Thanks, guys. 2 of the best fishermen that are not in this tournament on this lake, JT Kenny and Bobby Lane, they dominate on this lake. And you know who their best friend is on the trail?
Who's that?
It just so happens to be Luke Clawson, who's dominating right now on this lake. I guarantee you by the end of this weekend, Luke will be buying those 2 dinner.
Yeah, and it's funny because Luke Clawson's down there on Kissimmee. I looked at the map, and he is in almost one of the exact same places where JT Kenny dominated here last year. Not only is Luke Clawson down there, but you've got Scott Rook, you've got Edwin Evers, you've got Kevin Worth. 4 of the top 5 are on Kissimmee, and I think the way you can see on the southern end of this chain, the way that Kissimmee lays out, it lets these guys get out of the wind a little bit, and I think that's going to be a really key factor because it's howling right here. John, Byron, back to you guys.
All right, thank you, Z and Trey. And yeah, it is howling out here right now, isn't it?
And you know what? These guys brought up a great point. Is Luke getting all this great help from guys that aren't in the tournament? If he is, he better remember his friends when this thing's over. Don't go big time after you win the Classic with your friends' information.
Our coverage of the 36th Bassmaster Classic continues here on ESPN2. Bass Center comes your way at 11 o'clock Eastern. Now it's time to go back to Tommy Sanders and the gang for more live coverage of the Classic.
We're back continuing our live coverage of the Citgo Bassmaster Classic on Elimination Day. Got to be in the top 25 on this day on Lake Toho, record-setting Lake Toho. We got 51 anglers, the 51 best in the business. Kevin Worth is one of the men who's made a big move today. Kevin Worth from Crestview, Kentucky, has caught 10 pounds and 4 ounces. Let's look at his track today.
Yeah, Kevin is, making a run. He's heading down to the bottom end through the lock, taking time, heading all the way down to Kissimmee, going over to that shore that we talked about where all the big stringers came from yesterday. He's kind of in the same area where Luke Clawson, several other anglers are fishing.
Take a look. This is Fishing Today with Kevin Worth, the man who is making one of the big moves on this day. Again, he's got 10 pounds plus unofficially. There's one of his keepers right there.
You noticed he was catching those fish out of the isolated pads, just like Luke.
All right. With a full update, Mark May is on the water on Kevin Worth, who's made our biggest jump of the day at the top of the leaderboard. Mark?
Yeah, and I'm right here on Lake Toho. The wind is picking up today, but Mike Warren's made an incredible day today. He started off in 38th place. Right now, over 17 pounds of fish. Vaulted all the way up to 7th place. What a move on the day for him. I'm right here at Lake Toho, but let's go down to Kissimmee. Let's go down to Robbie.
Hey guys, I'm in Kissimmee, and I want to tell you there are 19 anglers in here today. Quite a bit of the field have worked south. And most of them were on the eastern banks yesterday, but there's more of a mixed bag today. A lot of western guys out there fishing, and as Mark just mentioned, it is definitely getting windier. As you can see, my nappy head blowing around. But Kim Bang, where are you at? It can be a much better day than here.
Actually, Robbie, it's pretty windy here on Cypress too. I'm here with Greg Hackney. He's another angler just outside of the top 10 going into today. He's had a bit of a charge and moved up into the top 10 on Cypress. He's copping a bit of a hard time from the airboats, so he's got the wind and the airboats to contend with. But big news for today, Luke Clawson has, unofficially of course, 40 pounds and 14 ounces. He is our leader and has a limit of bass. He's one of the only guys in the top 10 to have a limit. So on to you, Tommy.
All right, thank you so much, Kim. Kim mentioned, Denny, trouble with the airboats. Explain what an airboat is and why that could be trouble for a bass angler.
Well, an airboat has a great big fan on the back of it. It can push through that vegetation. Rather than go around it, it'll go right over it. If it goes over the vegetation that you're fishing, you're going to have issues. It's going to spook those fish. It's probably going to take an hour for them to settle down. It can ruin your whole area, ruin your day. 19
anglers, Robbie Floyd mentioned, down there on Lake Kissimmee. So we got our field pretty much split half and half between Lake Toho and Lake Kissimmee. Is this playing out pretty much the way you expected?
Yeah, it really does. You know, on practice day, I think there was 23 anglers locked through to go down to the bottom. So this is about right. About half the field is moving down to Kissimmee.
All right, we're following all the field, the full field of 51 anglers trying to make the cut, trying to be among the top 25 who will make it. Take a look at the scoreboard. Still Luke Clawson on top. Jason and Preston Clark trying to be the first angler to win a Classic in his home state. More to come on our Classic coverage. All right, Mike Iaconelli, superstar. Didn't used to be one, came from out of obscurity, made the Classic as a Federation angler, and yesterday he sort of adds to his legend when you say, Denny, with that incident, he has a couple of fish go down in the live well, has to get rid of them, has to cull them, and has a fit, basically. Didn't like what happened there, and the whole catch from day one for Mike Iaconelli is disqualified on the basis of unsportsmanlike conduct. Does that surprise you, knowing Mike Iaconelli?
I've seen the good Mike. I've seen the bad Mike. We saw the bad Mike yesterday. I like the good Mike a lot better. Mike's a good guy. I worked seminars with him. He's good with kids. But, boy, yesterday was very, very disappointing. We don't need to see that. You know, he acted like a jerk. That's the bottom line. He knows it. I'm going to talk to him afterwards. Mike and I think, are fairly decent friends. We can have that conversation. He needs to clean his act up. He knows when to be enthusiastic, but he doesn't need to be throwing fits.
Well, Denny, we're all incomplete people when you look at it. And you know, we all tend to get frustrated in different ways. Mike Iaconelli, that's part of his personality, part of his legend. I mean, it is something he's got to work on, but isn't that part of being Ike?
It's part of being Ike, but we do not need cursing out there. We do not need some of the stuff he's doing, breaking boat equipment. He crossed the line by doing some of that.
All right, take a look at what happened again to Mike Iaconelli on day one of this tournament, the day in which he had 11+ pounds of fish disqualified. Didn't get to count them at all because of a unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. This is where he discovers that these fish are not doing very well in the live well. He takes some measures to try to revive the fish, but what a shock. I mean, that makes anyone's heart sink right there to see something like that.
Yeah, because you're being penalized. See, if he loses all 5 fish, if all 5 fish die, Tommy, that's 2.5 pounds. That could have cost him the tournament. So he's frustrated right now. But he's got to make the best of this situation. You can't let it destroy your day, and obviously he let it destroy his day.
The rejuvenating chemicals he puts in there to try to do something in vain to make those fish come back alive again. And this is what happens in the aftermath.
Yeah, this is the meltdown. This is real unfortunate.
I want you to notice I never had that, whatever that air thing is they told you to use, because I hate that thing. I never had that on. Chuck, it's Ike. Quick question, can you call dead fish? Or dying fish? Okay, gotta go, thanks.
All right, Mike Iaconelli disqualified for that conduct you saw there. Also some rough language out there with spectators in the area. You made a point the other day about disqualifications, didn't he?
He draws a lot of people. He's got a lot of boats following him. A lot of those boats have kids in them. He needs to clean that act up on the water. Realize that he's one of the big stars of the sport. He keeps acting like that. He's not going to be a star very much longer.
Well, there's the proof of the pudding right there. He is a star of the sport, former Classic champion. Top 10 finishes in the Classic 4. That is very, very strong. 4 career wins. That's why he is on top of the game. Yet, he appears in GQ magazine as one of the top 10 most hated guys in the sport of fishing, and you were one of the contributors to that article, Denny Brower.
Yeah, Mike and I had a talk about that. Once in a while, you do an interview, a little bit of it gets taken out of context. I kind of relate it to how a lot of people feel about Mike, and he understands that. He kind of thrives on that a little bit. He wants to be the bad boy of the sport, and he took one more step towards being that.
It's a fine line that he walks. Now, but there are a lot of guys, especially guys who've been around the sport of fishing for a long, long time. You kind of walk that line because, you know, you're in the middle range of guys there who realize that he is probably going in the face of all the traditions that they've known in the past, yet he's attracting new people to the sport. How do we keep him on that?
Well, I realize we need that. We need change. Everybody's got to realize sports change. People like him bring new people to our sport, but you still got to keep the tradition. You can't destroy all the good things that so many of us worked hard to establish.
All right. Well, one guy making a run right now today, making a climb up that leaderboard is the Oklahoma kid, we call him, Edwin Evers. Edwin Evers is a young man from Oklahoma who won his big tournament last year on the Citgo Bassmaster Tour, Lake Norman in South Carolina. He's got all the tools.
I think Edwin, if I had to choose one person out of this whole field, is the next true superstar we're going to see emerge. Great angler, great attitude.
All right, let's take a look at Edwin Evers. This is day 2. This is this morning. Edwin Evers leaving from the launch, Kissimmee, Florida, Lake Toho. Another one of those anglers who's going down to the Southport Lock. He's locking past Lake Cypress and Lake Hackney all the way into Kissimmee Lake. Very popular fishing spot for these guys, and that's the popular bank.
That area right there has played a part in a lot of other tournaments we've had here. Edwin has probably fished it before in other years. But one thing about all these anglers that lock through, they have to get back through that lock. The lock could be a factor in who wins this tournament.
Great touch, great feel. This angler has proven again that he can do all. He's so versatile, he can just do about anything in the sport of fishing. Very, very popular young man. As you say, then he's going to be one of the big future superstars.
Great personality. He just missed the fish. You hate to see that. But he's going to work those isolated patches of pads. He's going to catch some fish doing that. Not all the fish are in a spawning mode. Some of these fish have already spawned and are back on isolated cover underneath that cover.
You talk about that cover, those pads. There's 300 different kinds of vegetation on that lake, and everywhere you look, you see vegetation. How do you sort out the place where they're going to be bass hiding under? There's too much of it out there.
Well, a lot of these anglers know what types of vegetation these fish like to utilize at different times of the year. And this time of the year, they're either going to be underneath those heavy mats, especially on sunny days, or they're going to be spawning. The spawning fish are going to be around the isolated cover, the little Kissimmee grass, the arrowheads, the flagweed that we talked about earlier. The fish that have already spawned are going to back underneath those mats, and they're going to have to punch the baits down through those mats to get those fish to bite.
We see guys like Mike Worm moving up the leaderboard, a tremendous catch today. Is this what you're talking about, playing into the hands of certain fishermen who really know how to take advantage of this push to get back under the mats by the bass?
You're going to have to change as conditions change. The sun's out today. It's a lot brighter than it was yesterday. The bed fishermen can see them better, but by the same token, the guys fishing mats should be more successful. Everybody's going to make changes. It's the guys that make the right changes that are going to be the winners.
We watched Iaconelli and his antics yesterday. We watch Edwin Evers today. Two different sorts of personalities in the sport of bass fishing. But don't we find that in every sport? We find guys that from different ends, completely different ends of the spectrum, and that can both coexist and both make the sport grow.
That's what makes it fun, Tommy. Well, everybody's friends when the tournament's over. But when you get out there under that competition, it's wide open war.
Our current leader right now is the one Luke Clawson, the young man from Spokane, Washington. Let's take a look at a Google Earth map. Some amazing, amazing pictures we get from the satellite of what's going on down there on the lake. This is Luke Clawson's track and where Luke Clawson has been fishing today, courtesy of Google Earth. Let's take a look at this, Denny. Zooming into, of course, Central Florida, just south of Orlando, you find Toho, Kissimmee, Hackney, and Lake Cypress. Of course, once again, we're headed down to Lake Kissimmee. A lot of damage being done down there.
Yeah, that seems to be where the majority of the big stringers are coming from, outside of Preston and Rick, who caught them close to weigh-in yesterday. All the big guns have run down there catching those big stringers.
All right, Luke Clawson doing well, obviously, in this 2006 Citgo Bassmaster Classic, a man who knows how to win big-time tournaments. Kim Bain, what do you have for us on Luke? You know these Western anglers pretty well.
Yeah, Tommy, talk about a young guy with a mission. One of the youngest anglers in the tournament, just 27 years old. But he's no stranger to holding a $500,000 check, that's for sure. And he is, we talked about the top anglers in the top 5. They could run away with this thing if they had a good day today. I spoke with Luke this morning. He said he wasn't changing a thing. He was going right back to that spot. He was going to fish it hard, and he wanted a big bag just like yesterday. And he is right on track for that. He's got a limit. He just caught another fish. He's culling. And get this, Tommy, he has a 5.5 pound lead on the second place person, unofficially of course, but 5.5 pound lead. That's huge.
Kim,
back to you, Tommy.
Yes, well, Kim, let me ask you one more question. You fished a lot of these Western events. As I say, you're very familiar with Luke Clawson. Where does he fall in the personality spectrum? Is he what we call an excitable guy, or is he one of these keep your head down, keep reeling, sort of face nose to the grindstone kind of guys?
You know, that's a good question, Tommy. I think Luke is very cool, calm, collected. He's not feeling the pressure today. He said he definitely wasn't nervous. He was just going to go out, go fishing. He had his goal set. He knew what he wanted to achieve, and he's right on track for that. Typically, known as a fisher, he's flipping here, and he's doing a great job.
All right.
Back to you, Tommy.
All right. Thank you very much, Kim Bain. What do you know of Luke Clawson, Denny?
I don't know a whole lot about Luke. I know he's won some big tournaments before, so I don't think the pressure's going to get to him unless it tightens up. If he can have that 5-6 pound lead going into tomorrow, he's got so much confidence in that same area. He's gone back to that. That helps you a bunch. You can settle down. You can fish right. You know where your key bites are going to come from. So it may play, I mean, $500,000, you can't tell me that's not pressure.
Oh, man. Well, we'll be watching Luke Clawson, how he handles the pressure. Here's a bit of words Luke had for us at the launch earlier this morning back in Kissimmee. All right.
Bassmaster Classic, day 2, in first place. Just got through the log. Gonna go get some giants.
Yeah! Thank you, Lord. When I reached down to pick her up, is when I got nervous. I saw how big she was, and I was like, oh my goodness.
Woo! That's the right kind.
Toho's full of that. Big ones, too.
Yes, yes, yes! Woo! We gotta go!
Only at the Bassmaster Classic.
Oh, that's a nice fish.
I knew I had the opportunity to catch some big fish here.
Can it get any closer than in your face than that?
A big bass day to be sure on Lake Toho. Our coverage of the 2006 Citgo Bassmaster Classic continues here. Live coverage on Elimination Day. 25 anglers only are going to make it to the final day. You better bring some big bass to the weigh-in tonight if you want to be among those guys going to the weigh-in. I tell you what, we always honor the Purolator big bass, the big bass caught in each day of fishing. It's a cash award for the angler. There was no doubt about the big Purolator bass from yesterday. 11 pounds, 10 ounces from Preston Clark of Palatka, Florida. Let's take a look at the Purolator big bass of the day.
That's one happy angler right there, Tommy, and what a fish. My goodness.
Preston Clark has fished over 60 tournaments down here on Lake Toho and Kissimmee. There's something to be said for a little bit of hometown knowledge. Goes a long way, especially in a tournament like this, where there are very specific conditions to find these huge bass that you have to win.
Well, you need a fish like that to really separate you from the field. But 11 pounds plus, that's unreal in any tournament, let alone a classic. That's the difference between him and Luke being up there away from everybody else. They caught them extra large fish.
For years and years, 30 years as a matter of fact, since 1976, 8.9 was considered the unassailable classic big fish. That was Ricky Green back in Guntersville. But take a look at the fish that were caught yesterday, the big fish, 4 of them that eclipsed Ricky Green's remark. Take a look. Preston Clark, Rick Clunn, Mark Tucker, Edwin Evers all shatter the record.
Well, yeah. I mean, when I saw Rick Clunn catch that 10-10 on camera on a spinnerbait, I thought, boy, this is blowing the record away. And then Preston catches that big fish. Unbelievable.
Preston Clark putting on a show for the bass fans across the country and around the world. Mark May has got more for us, more good info on Preston Clark. Mark, hit us with it.
Well, Tommy, it's an update on Preston Clark. He's got 4 fish on the day, just over 8 pounds. He's still in second place, over 5 pounds behind Luke Clawson. But on this lake, Lake Toho, that'll be easy to make up throughout the afternoon. And not only that, there are 27 anglers today still fishing Lake Toho. So they believe there's a lot of big fish to be caught here on the lake, Tommy.
All right, let's talk about big fish. Let's talk about Lake Toho and Lake Kissimmee. Boy, the biggest day ever in fishing in terms of heavyweights was one day back in 2001, and Dean Rojas sets the all-time record. Dean Rojas goes out there and catches a 45-pound plus stringer of fish. Do you remember that day very well, Denny?
I really do. Traditionally, that time of the year when weather's terrible, it takes about 10, 11 pounds to do well. And that's what I had. And I came in the weigh-in, and I saw the stringers these guys had, and I saw what Dean had. Unbelievable. We'll probably never hit a circumstance quite like that again.
Boy, Dean Rojas said he just like a toilet flush every time he get that bait out there, and it was just unbelievable. It was like living in a dream. He had to pinch himself. He really thought it wasn't reality for a while.
Well, like he said, it changed his life. That's a stringer that I'm sure we're going to enough good places this year that we'll come close to breaking it, but it's going to be tough.
All right. Well, Dean Rojas will never forget that day. Neither will any bass fishing fan. Dean Rojas on setting all the records on that special day back in December 2001 here on Lake Toho, our classic site for the year.
January 17th, 2001, a day of unmatched proportion, to say the least. Catching 45 pounds, 2 ounces, it was one of those magical days that you dream about. From the third flip, catching that 10-12, which was the first one that came in the boat, I knew something was going to happen that day. It was very special. Everything just kind of flowed. The neat thing about that day was I watched all of them eat my bait. The water was so clear that I could actually watch those big females come down and engulf my lizard. When I did catch that last fish, I sat down. I said, I have to prepare because my life's going to change. It was just an unbelievable feeling, and just sit there and watching that digital readout and then lock in on 45.2 was a dream come true.
Incredible. All right. Records will ever be eclipsed. Those are huge, and a special, certainly alignment of the planets, conditions that couldn't have been the least little bit different. Will it ever happen again? Will those records be broken, Denny?
It could actually happen the week after next when we go down to the Mexico-Texas border.
That's what people are saying.
If you get on the right lakes at the right time, it can happen.
Remember your biggest fish you ever caught in classic competition?
I sure do. It was at High Rock Lake, the second day of the tournament. I flip in by a log, I get a bite, and I think it's like a 3-pound bass. It comes up beside the boat. And I'm going to swing him because I know this fish is getting ready to jump Tommy, and I swing him, and here this 7-pound, 6-ounce bass comes over the side, and I'm going, man, you almost screwed up. But that was in 1998, and it enabled me to win the Classic, that one big bass.
All right. You think we've seen the biggest bass we're going to see so far in this Classic competition, that 11-10?
Well, we probably did, because a lot of these guys went around looking for sight fish. They caught those big fish that they had marked yesterday, so maybe they used all those fish up. But these fish have 12, 14, these lakes have 12, 14 pounders in here. Any one cast, we may see a bigger bass yet.
All right, let's take a look at our leaderboard one more time. Take a look at the top 10 competitors at this point in time. Remember, things are changing very, very quickly out there on Lake Toho. Take a look at that leaderboard right now, and the man on top is still Luke Clawson, the man from Washington State. From the other corner of the country is Preston Clark. Dean Rojas had a good day, wound up in 14th place after the first day, but he's dropped down into 21st place. So much more to come, so much more coverage on the way. Remember, the weigh-in today, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN, but more here from our live.
This Bass Center in-game update is brought to you by Mercury Marine.
We welcome you back to Lake Toho, Kissimmee, Florida for this Bass Center in-game update. Along with Byron Velvick, I'm John Kernan, and the playing field here is huge. Imagine this, the Kissimmee chain of lakes, approximately 4 times the size of Manhattan. And the fish out here are huge, too.
Giants.
Case in point, Kevin Worth this morning, the former Kentucky Derby jockey, he's got 5 in the live well, 10 pounds, 4 ounces estimated right now. He's in 3rd place, Byron.
Actually, he's catching them good, and that's the thing about Kevin Worth. This guy knows how to come back. He is a seasoned veteran. Everybody knows this guy can catch fish, and he wants to threaten those 2 guys. He wants Preston Clark and Luke Lawson to know, hey, it's not just a 2-man race. 3 of us are in this hunt.
And Mark Menendez, viral meningitis last year, almost didn't make it off the water when he discovered that he had it at a tournament. He has fought back, gotten into the Classic. Right now, he's in 32nd.
Last year he was sitting here with us doing analysis.
Yes.
We was late with Tommy Sanders. Now we get to watch him fish, and I envy the guy. The guy has really battled back in a great way, and he is someone to watch all the way through.
Well, Luke Clawson unofficially appears to be kind of pulling away. He's more than 5 pounds ahead of Preston Clark.
Hey, the beauty about that, that's just 1/2 of some of the fish we saw yesterday. We saw 10s yesterday. Anything can happen. The weights are a little off comparatively. The weather may be a problem right now, so let's look at where they're going.
All right, Luke, check out where Luke Clawson is, unofficially leading 42 pounds, 6 ounces. And his catches there.
Yeah, all of his catches are way down there. He's down in the very southeast corner of Kissimmee.
All right, well, let's go out on the water and check in with Robbie Floyd. Robbie, what's going on?
Well, you see Mike Worm right there. I'm trying to be quiet because I'm not too far from him right now. And he has made let's just say, a tremendous jump. He was in 49th place after the first day, and word has it he's into 5th right now. He has 5 keepers. He actually caught 7 total for the day. And let's just say his technique speaks for itself, but obviously he is on big fish, and I will try and get you a little update from Mikey here in just a moment. I just now made it to the area, and there's nobody around.
All right, Robbie, and my unofficial totals here, Mike Worm, 19 pounds, 2 ounces today.
Wow, for 5 fish, now that's a stringer. This guy's on a major comeback, and you can tell that's the key thing what Robbie's saying here. If this guy has it all to himself, quietly sitting there fishing where nobody else is at, and he's got 20 pounds, 19-something already, this is exciting. Worm has made a jump from the 40s all the way to the top 10. That's great.
Mike Worm, best name in profession, best last name in professional fishing. Don't forget Bass Center. Byron and I are here at 11 o'clock Eastern on ESPN2. Weigh in on ESPN at 4:30. Now let's go back to Tommy Sanders and our continuing live coverage.
One of the greatest outdoor shows in the entire world, and it is outdoor show season. That is the ESPN Bassmaster Classic Expo taking place at the Orlando Convention Center. You're watching our live coverage of the 2006 Citgo Bassmaster Classic on Elimination Day. 25 anglers only will survive from today. Today and tomorrow, coverage of the 23-event, $50 million NHRA Powerade Drag Racing Series continues on ESPN2. Drivers in the world's fastest motorsport move on to Chandler, Arizona for the Checker Shucks Cragen Nationals. ESPN2 brings you qualifying tonight, beginning at 8 Eastern. NHRA Today is tomorrow at 6:30 Eastern, followed by the finals at 7 Eastern. They're moving fast on Chandler, Arizona. We're moving fast here today on our coverage of the Citgo Bassmaster Classic. Tommy Sanders along here with former Classic champ, former Angler of the Year, all-time still leading money winner, Denny Brower. This is kind of a young sport when you think about it, Denny. I mean, you know, all those sports are older than bass fishing, although it seems a long time since it started back in 1971.
There's been so many changes, Tommy. In the early years, we were lucky to get a few people at a weigh-in, and now we get thousands of people at weigh-ins. And in the weigh-ins, you could just see over the years grow and grow and grow to the point where television became involved, and now we reach millions of viewers. They get to witness what's going on the water. That's what helps the sport really grow.
Do you remember how the first Classic went for you?
Not very good. You know, you're at their first event. You're just in awe.
Okay.
You really are. You're seeing your other heroes there. You just don't know whether you're going to be making the right moves or the wrong moves. You put too much pressure on yourself. I think I ended up finishing like 25th, and back then there was only like 30, 31 guys in that particular event, so I did horrible.
All right, well, let's hop in the old time machine and take a look at bass fishing classic style. The way it was back in the day, started back in 1971. The first champion was Mr. Bobby Murray.
The Bassmaster Classic is professional bass fishing's marquee event. Today, tens of thousands of fans show up to watch their heroes battle for professional bass fishing's world championship. The Classic is the equivalent to the Masters in golf and the Super Bowl in football. But back in 1971, nobody seemed to grasp exactly what professional bass fishing was about. Ray Scott planned to change all that.
Bob Cobb and I, 1970, were driving to Atlanta from Montgomery. We were frustrated, both of us, knew we had something right and good, but we had no really appreciable attention from the media. And so the idea hit my head on the way to Atlanta. I said, well, why don't we just have a big year-end kind of an affair, and we'll invite the media to come so that they can find out. The whole idea of competitive bass fishing is not so bad.
And we'd have the best anglers in the country at the end of the year fish the test of the best. And we created that as the Bassmasters Classic.
There was going to be a classic event at the end to really fish off for the first professional World Championship.
We're going to have the Super Bowl tournament. That's what he called it. It's the Super Bowl of bass fishing. And so the idea was born, and Bob said, where will we have it? I said, why don't we hold it in some mystery lake, and just that'll make everybody wonder where it is, and we'll tell them it's a secret, and that gives us a year to figure out where the heck we got to go.
Ray Scott the founder of Bass, Harold Sharp, the tournament director, and myself as a PR director, we were the only people that were there, knew where we were going and what was going on. It was just total secrecy.
The ladies that worked in our offices, they used to go through our garbage cans and listen in on telephone conversations and do everything they could to try to find out where we were going.
We're putting out rumors everywhere, just driving them nuts.
Everybody's imagination was running wild.
You were going anywhere. You asked 24, 25, 26 guys, you got that many different opinions.
The pilots would even come in and joke with you a little bit. You know, they'd try to rattle your mind where you were going.
To my knowledge, no one outside the need-to-know basis discovered where the site of the Classic was.
We simply invited them to come to a rendezvous place.
You hang out with them, and then you get on the plane the next day, and you get up to 10,000 feet, and the pilot comes on and says, "Does anybody know where we're going?"
Well, folks, here we are with the second annual Bassmaster Classic. You can almost hear the guitars and the cowboys singing because we're headed for Nashville, Tennessee.
You know, once you get on an airplane, the excitement builds, and then when Mr. Scott got up and told us where we were going, that was kind of like the climax of the whole deal.
So many memories, so many traditions, so many stories. Right now we got the great opportunity to get it from the horse's mouth, and I hate calling Ray a horse. He is the founder of Bass, the inventor of the Classic, and he's with Jerry McInnes right now, guys.
Tommy, he's the godfather of bass fishing. Ray, very quickly, where were you at? Tell me about the moment that you decided, hey, we have to have a Bassmaster Classic.
Well, the idea honestly hit me. I know it sounds crazy, but I had the idea. I was watching television, a basketball game in March, and I remember when the idea hit, I stood up in my underwear in the bed, and I could see me there going, this is it. We'll have it. We'll have a tournament because everybody else has got a competition. World tournaments for ping pong or football, nothing for bass fishermen. But now we got it.
How many people were at that first weigh-in?
Well, to be quite honest, the weigh-in area was about the size of this stage.
This was the weigh-in.
Yeah, it was like 2 bedrooms, and we had about all the fishermen's wives and the press, of course, but then about 200 stragglers, mostly drunks passing by.
Okay, Tommy and Denny, remember, he's the godfather. You guys mess with me, he'll come in there and rough you up. You were in your underwear?
Well, you asked me, I told you, it could have been worse.
There's no guy like Ray Scott, is there, Denny? Thank you, guys. That was terrific.
There's only one Ray Scott, fortunately.
Oh, my gosh. Well, they did something that was unbelievable and endures today, and it's bigger than ever. Our 2 Florida anglers are in the top 10. Never before has an angler won the Classic in his home state. Boy, we got a lot of stories working out there, a lot of coverage on the way. Don't forget the weigh-in coming up today for you at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN, and we've got a lot of fishing between now and then. All right, stick with us. We'll follow all the stories. Our leaderboard right now still shows Luke Clawson on top, but that could change. Stick around. We'll be right back. All right, back to our live coverage of the 2006 Citgo Bassmaster Classic. Got another hour or so of live coverage for you there. Let's take a look at what's going on out on the lake today. Luke Clawson is still the man so far with the lead, a 5-pound unofficial lead. He could be running away from the field, Danny Brower, but we got one guy chasing him, and that is our man from Palatka, Florida, Preston Clark, and he's flipping today, right?
Well, he's actually bed fishing. We saw footage of him earlier where he's pushing himself along with a push pole. He's hunting for those fish in little isolated holes. He'll hunt for those light spots, and then he'll sit there and see if a shadow comes across, which is that bass.
All right, bed fishing or sight fishing. We're going to take a look under the water, take a look at our bass eye view, and see how the sight fishing works. It's kind of a very peculiar situation. You got to have a lot of skill, a lot of experience in order to make it work.
Yeah, you really do. And some of these guys are experts at it. And I know in practice we actually saw him riding around, not fishing, just hunting for the bass. And when you're hunting for them, you go back to hunting for those bright spots that you can see down in the water, like I referred to. And then you sit there and you watch and you see if a bass is on it or if a bass cruises across. And then you just kind of work it real methodically, get your bait in that sweet spot right there in that bare piece of water that fish is fanned off. And hopefully you'll suck it in just like that. And the game's on.
Bed fishing is always sight fishing, or can you fish a bed without being able to see that fish?
You can fish it without being able to see it, and a lot of times these guys will GPS the beds in, so if the wind comes up like it did today, or if it clouds up and they can't see the fish, they still know the area in order to cast the bait. They'll make repeated casts to that area to try to agitate those fish.
All right, our home state anglers are the guys who are doing a lot of the sight fishing out here. Our 2nd and 8th, Preston Clark, and of course Terry Scroggs is now moving up that leaderboard right now. Having the experience, knowing how these Florida fish will take a bait on that bed is very crucial, isn't it?
I think it's very, very crucial. The neat thing about being a home angler, you know what areas these fish traditionally move in to spawn, and if conditions change, you know what areas to go to catch more of these fish, and plus you understand the Florida species of bass, which can be very, very temperamental, very, very hard to catch. These guys know how to fish real slow, how to make them mad. They know how to catch these bedding fish.
Not everybody has the kind of set of eyes you need in order to sight fish, right?
No, and I'm one of them. I am not a very good sight fisherman. I don't have the patience to sit there and pester that fish, but initially the reason I'm not a very good sight fisherman is because I can't see him that good.
One of the reasons there are so many eyes on Preston Clark is, of course, he's trying to be the first angler to ever win a Classic in his home state. Amazingly, in the 36-year history of the Classic, that has never been done. No one has ever won. The best performances by home state anglers. Well, there you go. Woo Daves almost did it back in Virginia. Jack Chancellor, 2nd place. Boy, they've come really close through the years. Dalton Bobo as well. And it's just, I don't know, there's something about it. Home advantage is not always home advantage, is it, Denny?
Well, the reason is they've got added pressure put on them. Everybody's talking about that. They're a favorite. They're going to win. The media starts to get into their head a little bit. They forget what they're doing. That pressure catches up with a hometown angler. It's not catching up with Preston this time, though. He's around enough fish that he's probably going to end up doing well no matter what happens pressure-wise.
Preston Clark, a guy who sold insurance for 17 years now, living the dream as an angler. We're going to take a look at our leaderboard before we take a quick break here. We'll be back with more Classic coverage. That leaderboard still shows us a lot. We still got Luke Clawson on top. Unofficially, a 5-pound lead. Preston Clark chasing him. All right, under 30 is where we started the day. Now we've got 3 guys over 30 pounds today. The scores are still moving up. How high can they go today? That's the question. We got more coverage on the way. You talk about moving day, they've got it in golf. Hey, it happens at the Classic as well. If you don't make the cut, you're not around to pick up that trophy and the $500,000 first prize. Take a look at the anglers who are moving on day 2, moving day of this competition. Mike Worm, what a jump, 49th all the way to 6th place. And this was Mike Worm just moments ago with a very important fish catch for him.
Flipping like most of the anglers, Tommy, in that a little heavier cover. You can see he's real shallow. He's almost against the hard line up near the bank, hooked up with a good fish, and he swings it over. This guy's making a huge move. Already moved 43 spots today. That's unreal.
Unbelievable, unbelievable stuff from Mike Worm, the angler from Hot Springs, Arkansas, 53 years of age, his 8th Classic. Boy, this is the highest he's ever been in Classic competition, though his best finish is 4th. He's done well in years past, 12 top 10 finishes through the year, and Mike Worm still got a long way to go. A guy who's still got a lot of energy, a lot of zest for getting out there and competing with all these young guys.
I talked to Mike yesterday down at the Classic Expo, and he was totally upset with 7 pounds. He really felt he should have had a better day than that. He's having a great day today.
How can a guy get turned around so quickly with a bad day like that?
Makes the right adjustments. It makes him early in the day, gives him time to do the right thing.
All right, Robbie Floyd's out there. You got some more good info for us on Mike Worm, right, Robbie?
Yeah, it may be exactly opposite of what Diddy just said. He may have actually stuck with the original game plan and the fish come around to it. He told me he was fishing the same area he was fishing yesterday and catching little dinks, and that's where he's got almost the 20 pounds today. He just caught that one fish you showed just a moment ago. It wasn't on a bed. He said it was moving around, but he has been trying to catch some bedding fish. There's no question about that. But you had that golf analogy earlier. It just so happens Mike Worm is the best golfer in the field, and today he's trying to be Tiger Woods.
Well, now I've seen Mike Worm play golf. I'm not exactly concerned he's the best golfer in the field. I think Kevin Worth has aspirations to go on the senior tour. He may find those dashed as well. He might find some fishing, but fish moving back in, Robbie. I mean, is Mike as surprised as the rest of us to catch a bunch of dinks in one spot the other day and then have the big ones move in on him? And today, is he sort of a little out of breath right now?
Well, you know, I mean, he's all smiles right now after a day like yesterday. When I was talking to Scott Rook, I mean, he's fishing Kissimmee as well. On the other side, he said he caught his fish later on in the day, and yet he already had a couple catch, you know, this morning. So you know, I think he's just finally sticking with it, and it's coming around for him. You know, was it too late after the slow start yesterday? Who knows? But right now we have him, you know, right at the top 5. So, yeah, he's
well, you
all
think it might be
right
too
now.
late. Thank you very much, Robbie Floyd. You think it might be too late, but hey, with moves like that, anything can happen. Obviously, if a guy can jump 43 places.
43 places is huge. If he can move another 5 or 6 places, he'll have a shot tomorrow.
All right, one more look at the leaderboard before we take a quick break here. Finds us with Luke Clawson still on top with 42 pounds unofficially. The guys are making moves. We'll follow those moves. We'll follow everything for you when we get back. Back with our live coverage, the 2006 Citgo Bassmaster Classic continuing on here. We take a look at the leaderboard, and the bottom part, unfortunately, of the leaderboard means we have to look at notables below the cut line. Dean Rojas, who set all the records here in 26th place. He's right there on the bubble. Gerald Swindle, Angler of the Year from 2004. Aaron Martens, last year's Angler of the Year and second place Classic finisher, currently in 29th place. Let's take a look at Kevin Vandam, our defending champion, way down there below the cut. Kevin Vandam struggling on day 1 and struggling again on day number 2. Very uncharacteristic of Kevin.
Yeah, but what everybody needs to keep in mind, Tommy, is Kevin's going to swing for the fence today. And when you swing for the fence, a lot of times you're fishing new water. And in that new water, you may not find any fish. But he found out yesterday he couldn't win it where he was, so he's taking some chances.
Kevin Vandam, a long ways out of that cut line at this moment, but Kevin Vandam is known very much for his charges in the last minutes of tournaments. You never count him out, especially once that last hour is on. He's going to have to continue to fish slow and fish Florida style, but will he do anything different in that last hour?
He's going to do a lot of things different. You cannot win a tournament unless you give yourself an opportunity. He's going to move around, try different stuff to try to force that opportunity.
All right, well, wait to hear more about Kevin Vandam. Kim Bainham, matter of fact, has some stuff on Kevin for us right now. Is that correct, Kim?
That's right, Tommy. You guys definitely have it right. You can't count out Kevin Vandam. He is a machine. He goes for it. He gives it his all. He said that in practice. You know, and in practice he had a bunch of bites. He caught one. It was 9 pounds. That was huge. And I'm sure he's fishing those same spots today. You know, for him, it's just all about the Classic title. It means so much for him to go 4 in a row. It would be awesome for him, for his family. He's got so many supporters here. Now, as you said, Kevin Vandam's so known as being a power fisherman. It's really important for him to slow down. I saw him fishing a Senko in practice, you know, a small soft plastic bait. You guys know about it. You can tell the folks. It's so important for him just to slow down, fish thoroughly. That was his goal, to go to a few areas and just really work those over as best he could. And hopefully there's still time for today. Hopefully he can pull himself up and make the cut, make the top 25. Back to you, Tommy.
All right, thank you, Kim. Let's take a look at Kevin Vandam. His performance in his Classics, the Classic finishes since his first win in the Classic 2001. Well, it wasn't so good for him. Missed the cut in 2002 and again in 2003. So it's not like missing the cut can't happen to Superman. It certainly can happen to Superman.
Yeah. It really can happen to anybody, Tommy, but Kevin swings for the fence. This is the tournament where second really doesn't mean much. Just ask Aaron Martens. Kevin realizes that he's going to fish to win, and when you fish to win, once in a while you strike out.
Well, Kevin Vandam is certainly one of the most beloved bass anglers of all time. Let's take a look at our top 10 now as we head to break. Our live coverage of the Citgo Bassmaster Classic 2006 as you look at the Classic Expo underway. Big crowds today. Our top 4 guys, take a look at them. Luke Clawson, Preston Clark trying to be the first guy ever to win in his home state. Kevin Worth, the angler from Kentucky, the former Kentucky Derby race driver, lurking in the background. Some more passing, some more shifting coming on. We got more coverage on